Good afternoon, everybody. We have a new microphone system now, so we should be good, right? All right. Can you hear us back there? We're good? Okay. So the way it works, you have to push the button, and when the button is pushed, that way you know your mic is on, and you get to also see who else is on. So keep that in, yes. So anyway, so welcome everybody to the conference meeting, the City Commission of Fort Lauderdale, this 8th day of March, 2023. We have a number of items to discuss, and some exciting things are happening in tonight's meeting. So really happy that we're able to move forward on some projects that have been with us for quite a while. So as we begin, I would like to start with the communications. We have one communication. We have one communication, which is from the Sustainability Advisory Board. Is there anybody on the board other than you? Is there anyone on the board who is here today, or just yourself? Okay, so explain to us a little bit about what this communication is trying to refer to. No, you have to push that red button.
Okay.
Didn't I just?
I thought I did.
Just explained.
All right. Glenn Hadwin, Sustainability Manager in the Public Works Department.
Yes, sir.
Mayor and Commissioners, I work with the Sustainability Advisory Board. This request is related to the board being able to seek a wide range of presenters. Our understanding is the current city policy is that any presenter to the board would need to come in person. In November, as you remember, the SAB sent a communication about electric vehicles. They wanted to hear from the sustainability manager from the city of Coral Gables, which, although within a drive at rush hour and with his schedule, he couldn't drive up here, but he was willing to participate in Zoom. And at other times in the past, we've had different we've wanted speakers from universities that may not be in driving distance. So this request is for the city to allow the presenters to the board, not the board members, but the presenters to present virtually if it makes sense because of logistical or other issues.
Okay, Dwayne, we don't have a problem with that, right? It's just the board members that the policies, they have to be in attendance, but not witnesses or.
Mayor, that is correct. I think that the previous concern is about a slippery slope, but we'll rely on the board liaisons to enforce the remote participation requirements for board members. So they'll just have to be on top of that and make sure that the board members themselves are aware of what the requirements are for their participation remotely, as is limited by our resolution.
Okay. You think that would satisfy the board?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you for being here. The next neighbor presentation, Fennell Antoine sent us a note saying that he would not be able to attend today. So unfortunately, he is asked to be put on a future agenda, I think May 2nd. So perhaps we can hear from him then. So I hope you're doing okay, Fennell, and I'm sorry you couldn't be here today. CF1 quarterly investment report period ending December 31st, 2022. Who would like to make that report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So we have our finance director and our consultants also available to discuss the performance.
How much money did you make for us? That's all we really want to know.
Good afternoon, Linda Short, Director of Finance. How are you guys today?
Good, thank you. Will you tell us?
So I'm going to tell you that we have a good news. It's a good news story. The market was very good at the beginning quarter of the year for us, October through December, where all of the city's portfolios were earning a good amount of revenue. On top of that, a lot of them beating the benchmark. I have the financial consultant here, PFM, if you have any specific questions about the market or the investments.
So anyone have any questions of our consultants here? So I'm looking at, we're still below the assumed rate of return though, correct?
We are below the assumed rate of return for the pension funds. the city's operating portfolio beat the benchmark, more than doubled the benchmark. Our overall operating portfolio earned 2.3%, whereas the benchmark was 0.93%. When it comes to our pension funds, the OPEB trust earned about 6%, which is below what the assumed rate of return is, but it's only a quarterly amount, not an annual. Cemetery did above their benchmark. They did 6.9%, which is the benchmark for them at the assumed rate of return is 5%. So they were hitting above. But that, like I said, this is just a quarterly number, and we're going to see how things go. And like I said, if you need a market update of where we think performance is going to end at the end of the year, our consultants are here to talk about that. Of course, we don't control the GERS or the police and fire trust funds, but both of them one was 5.8% for GERS and 4.85% for the police and fire retirement systems. And both of them were below the assumed rate of return.
So who makes up that difference if after the end of a fiscal year, the assumed rate of return is not achieved? Who makes up that difference? How does that work?
The city does.
The city. City
The
has to
city-
write a check for that?
The city will, through the actuarial report, they will amortize it, and that loss will be absorbed by the city in a future contribution.
So do you anticipate that for this fiscal year?
I can't predict that, at least not for the pension funds. Like I said, we don't control their investments. Their investments are controlled by their board and their investment advisor. But if they are hitting their benchmarks, which it looks like GERS did, but police and fire did not. But, I can't speak to their investments and how their portfolio is performing, only just to provide the news of what the results were of that.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? Okay, well, thank you.
All right, thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Okay, we're moving on to old new business. Business one, Los Olas initiatives. Mr. City Manager, Mr. Rogers. We have a few people signed up to speak.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commission, Ben Rogers, Director of Transportation Mobility. Today we're going to talk about Los Olas initiatives. There's a handful of them that are on the corridor. There's been different efforts from staff, different timelines, and different initiatives going on. And so we thought it best to come provide updates on all those timelines and projects to the Commission, seek any feedback that might be provided. So we're going to go through 6 different initiatives. The first one's Tunnel Top Park. We do have representatives from Florida Department of Transportation today, if you have any questions. But in short, the project has had some delays. There were some unforeseen underground conflicts, some drainage conflicts, and they also had some supply chain issues with the electronic components. But with that, there's really 3 different components of the Tunnel Top Park. The first one, south of Los Olas, should be completed by the end of March, and the remaining work includes the north ventilation building, some of the park amenities, and the concrete roadway. For the plaza north of Los Olas, so the extension, the work should be completed by mid-May, and the remaining work is drainage, concrete, turf, lighting, and landscaping. And then Los Olas Boulevard at 6th Avenue south of Los Olas should be open late April, and north of Los Olas, which connects to US 1, sometime in mid-May.
All right, so where are the folks here from FDOT? You mind coming up? I want to hear it from the horse's mouth, Mr. Rogers. Welcome.
Hello.
So, this picture that you see, when are we going to see that?
You're gonna see that pretty soon. If you
Tell
look
that
at
to the Clydesdales.
the top right portion of it,
This
the
picture on
area-
the bottom. This picture on the bottom. See all
Picture on
that
the
pretty,
bottom.
all those pretty pathways and landscaping and all that. When are we going to see that?
that whole thing will be done around the middle of May.
Of 2023?
Yes, it will. Yes,
Okay.
middle to the end of May.
Middle
whole
to the
thing.
end. Middle to the end of May. Now. End of May now. Okay, like Memorial Day.
Before Memorial Day.
Before Memorial Day.
We want to definitely make it before Memorial Day.
Okay, so we're sort of in March now. So April, May. So you're saying like 2 months from now.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I've got a question.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead, go ahead.
I noticed when I was over there that the side walls alongside the terraced park are a lot higher than I anticipated they were going to be and what I think folks in the neighborhood expected. Could you talk a little bit about that?
The brick pavers?
No.
No, the extended, what do they call it, terrace park?
Yeah, the terrace park, basically the walls on
The
both
extension over
sides.
the extension over the tunnel, there was like a huge barricade around it. The commissioner's saying that it looks bigger than what we've originally thought.
I'd have to get with the architect on that, actually. I think it was more to become more of a stadium effect, so that there's high-rise areas that they set up and kind of look down onto the.
No, but I think what we're referring to is,
Or is
it's
it
like a
just the
thick,
walls on
it's
the
a
side?
thick barrier, right? Is that
Well,
what you're
there's,
referring to?
there's a thick barrier, but also, yes, it kind of creates this, like you said, sort of stadium effect with very high walls on both sides of the park area. So when you're walking alongside on that service road, you can't actually see into where that park's going to be now. You're looking at a wall that I think is 8 feet tall. So I don't think that was the original intent from the earlier designs. It was supposed to be able to overlook the park, and now you can't see it.
As far as I know, it was in the original design.
Well, let's look at the original design. This is it, right here, right?
So Commissioner Herbst, for some clarification, you're talking about the two sides that would be along 6th Ave that connect to US 1?
Both sides of the tunnel, yeah.
Right.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so we can look into that. I think what FDOT is trying to say is that at the north end, that's built up high,
Sure.
and there's going to be 2 or 3 layers on there. So there'll be some seating space, and people can walk up on that kind of vestibule area. And I think what you're saying is the sidewalls coming up to that point are higher. So if you're on Southeast 6th, you can't see directly across the park.
Right.
Okay, we'll look into that.
Okay, and I understand obviously having a wall so you don't have people throwing anything over onto the roadway down below. That makes sense. But I don't understand why you would have that high wall between the service road and the sidewalk area over there. You'd kind of want people to see the park when they're walking along those two streets.
Understood.
Well, okay, but you say understood, but you're not going to take the wall down. I mean, I agree with you. I think the commissioner makes a good point. I mean, and they look so thick. I mean, it's almost like it's a compound that you're creating there. You know, it's like we're a defense position. Like we're going to roll up our cannons there. A bunker. Anyway, let's take a look at that because I know it's not. Is it finished yet? It's not really finished yet, but let's be careful about that because we don't want to create visual barriers to an area that we were trying to create an open space, right?
And that's exactly the point, Mayor. Thank you, because our whole idea for doing this and pushing that all back was to create that kind of open, welcoming plaza that extends from one side to the other. And now we have almost like a batting cage, in there. So it just wasn't what I anticipated and expected from our earlier conversations.
The thickness doesn't help either. I don't know what they were expecting to. Is it a? Well, okay.
We'll look into it. I do know that they have to build some other elements in. There's some landscaping that's going to go in that area, so we'll look into it and get back to you.
Okay. All righty. Sorry to interrupt your presentation, but okay.
Do you have any more questions for FDOT?
Any more questions of Florida Department of Transportation? Okay. Not yet. Don't go anywhere. Thank you.
The next initiative was the Los Olas crosswalk. A couple of years ago, Commissioner Glassman requested that staff look into this area, and there was some funding that was appropriated, I think about $400,000. And 2021, at the end of 2021, we started the warrant process. It took about 4 or 5 months to get through. And then in June of 2022, we started the design effort, which was completed last month. So we have 100% designs on this. We are bundling that into a procurement package right now for construction. We'll submit that to the procurement department. Based on the time of that solicitation, we may or may not make the summer recess. So I would say for a conservative timeline that this would come back to the commission in August for approval. And then after that point, we think it would take about 6 months for construction.
I think you got the approval already. I think the commission and the community have been waiting for this for a long time. So the sooner you can bring that to us, the better.
Absolutely. We'll try to expedite the procurement process, but with the summer recess, it's going to fall right on the cusp of that.
We'll come back for a special meeting, yeah.
Perfect. Any other questions on the crosswalk?
Except the commissioner may have to vote from overseas, but that, okay. Thank you.
All right, dual left turn at Los Olas and Southeast 15th Avenue. So we started this project in July of 2021. We were working with Broward County Engineering to try to figure out some of the congestion issues and ways that we can increase the capacity. We started a design in June of 2022, which was also completed 100% last month. So we're also bundling this package. It's going through the procurement process, and we assume same type of thing. It will take 3 or 4 months to go through procurement, and will either be before the summer recess or in August for the award. And that has payment markings and signal timing modifications, and it still retains all of the drive lanes that were there previously. Mill and resurface. So as part of our annual operating budget for this year, we funded an effort to address the painted intersections that are on Los Olas between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And since that time, the development on 2nd has mill and resurfaced that, so that the painted intersection there has been removed. The city has a project that we are going to be mill and resurfacing 1st Ave. That will be scheduled sometime from now until June. It will be completed. And then the county has a large project at Los Olas and 3rd. And in that project, they are going to be doing mast arms, re-signalizing the intersection, and mill and resurface. The county's project, they're looking to do their first notice to proceed this month, which would be for materials, and then a notice to proceed for construction towards the ends of the year, and hopefully having substantial completion done 1 year from today. Los Olas seawalls. So Public Works has got a lot of seawall projects going on. They're investing in resilient infrastructure to reduce the frequency and duration and the intensity of tidal flooding. So on this screen, you can see there's 5 projects along Los Olas for seawalls. 1 is currently underway, Hendricks Isle, and there's 4 more that will be starting this spring.
And Mayor, I did want to thank staff for really moving quickly on these. There was a sense of urgency, and also the fact that, especially the Merle Fogg Park, which we were able to expedite and move up several years. So I just want to say thank you for that, because these are all really, really important resilient projects, and I'm glad that we're able to do it sooner rather than later, so thank you.
And then the last one, Los Olas Mobility. So there's been different conversations going across the community on Los Olas Mobility. Just wanted to, again, to bring to the attention of what staff is doing and where we're at right now in the process. So the first thing is we've got a design solicitation that's out. It was extended for some administrative reasons, and the deadline is today. So that bid will be closing today. We will be forming an evaluation committee that will review those proposals with the anticipation of coming back to commission either the 2nd meeting in May or the 1st meeting in June to award that. We are going to have 4 engineers represent the city, 1 from Public Works, 1 from Transportation Mobility, 1 from Department of Development Services, and 1 from Parks. In addition, we'll have a 5th evaluation member from the DDA. So that process, again, is underway and moving forward, and hope to bring that back in May. In addition, we submitted a grant application last month for a RAISE grant. It does require a 20% match, and we utilized our existing CIP future years as that match. That grant had two buckets of money. It had its traditional $1.5 billion that had a $25 million maximum, and it also had $800 million added to that this year, and which allowed applications to go up as high as $45 million. So what we've done is we've submitted 1 application, and it has an option A and an option B. Our option A is if we could get $38.5 million awarded, it would be for the construction funding of Andrews to Southeast 17th. However, if the US DOT does not approve that, we wanted to be considered for the smaller pool of money, which would be $25 million, and that would fund the construction between Andrews and Southeast 12th.
Are we able to tap into any of the the Winston sales tax money with the county? Is this type of project eligible for funds from that source?
We've submitted it previously, and it did not rank well. And now with the new rules for this year, they only allow you to submit 3 projects. This is not one of the 3 that we plan on submitting, but we can further conversations if you would like us to.
Okay. Anything further?
And then the last thing is staff has been doing some review of the current conditions along the corridor and focusing on sidewalk cafes and what the sidewalk widths are in certain areas.
Okay, anyone have any questions of Mr. Rogers? There being none, thank you so much, sir. Except we now have some people who would like to speak. There are just 3 people who have asked to speak. Tricia Holiday, Susie Bailey, and Dan Lindblade. So Trish, you don't want to speak? You're good? Okay. Susie? Aha.
I think this.
You're good.
Just tell me when you're ready. While we're waiting, I just want to say thank you to you guys for letting me speak this afternoon, y'all. The following presentation is to offer a possible green alternative or addition to your upcoming seawall projects, as seen as they were talking about the 5 seawall projects that are going to be on in the Las Olas area, but also, as you'll see, this could be, after you see this, it could be implemented throughout the city. Okay, Fort Lauderdale waterways and beaches are priceless to the local community, yet they're consistently contaminated from broken sewer lines, spills, stormwater runoff, liveaboard dumping, fertilizer, and landscape waste. After over 200 million gallons of toxic waste spilled into our priceless waterways, the Miami Waterkeeper Waterway Quality Testing Program was established by the city in January 2021. 10 sites, which you can see below, were chosen based on high contamination levels and those with the highest rate of recreational activity. And again, thanks y'all for doing this testing program. These charts, which can be found on the Miami Waterkeeper website, show areas of our waterways that are constantly tested in the red or pink, high for bacteria, which is unsafe for human activities. It also shows areas in the green that can tell us when it's safe to go into the water. The question is, how's the city planning to address or fix the problematic areas like these 5 below? Annie Beck Park, the Hemmershey Canal, Sweeting Park, Tarpon River, and Cootiehatchee Park. And the Hemmershey and Tarpon River, which you can see here, testing where the arrows are, they test frequently high, and they're thinking of possibly taking those 2 sites off of next year's testing program. By doing nothing, unhealthy conditions like these found here in our Fort Lauderdale waterways will sadly only increase. But conditions that are not, these are conditions that are not only harmful to marine life, but also sadly to human life too. What can we do? Well, we can start enforcing laws that are already in place, like those prohibiting blowing yard waste into canals or storm drains, laws prohibiting fertilizing in our summer rainy season, and no dumping from boat waste into canals. Also, we can introduce mangroves into our waterways. We can turn cement seawalls into living green infrastructure, or a combination of the 2, living seawalls. Storm drains that we have, they all need filters, and those filters need to be cleaned frequently. We also need to place, as we all know, the updating of our water and sewer lines throughout the city at the top of your to-do list of priorities. The broken down 4-inch cast iron pipes need to be replaced with 6-inch PVC. Liners are only a temporary solution, and they can't replace an antiquated pipe. We could begin by adding mangroves throughout our waterways in areas that will not interfere with boaters or views. Mangroves are the superheroes of our environment. They're the gift that keeps on giving, providing immeasurable benefits, from their positive role in fisheries to improving water quality by filtering out unwanted pollutants, including fertilizer runoff. They capture massive amounts of carbon dioxide emissions and other greenhouse gases from the atmosphere, as well as help mitigate storm surge and sunny day flooding. Mangrove islands could be added here by 7 Isles, as you see here, or here in Sunset Lake. Many publications throughout coastal cities are favoring seawalls that will be higher, stronger, and better for marine life. Fort Lauderdale, as you saw earlier, has been busy with many seawall projects, including these 5 we see here. Can I ask how many of these new seawalls will be green rather than gray infrastructure? Flat gray infrastructure is not beneficial to the marine environment, but turning flat cement into green living seawalls like these seen here not only encourage marine life, enhancing the marine ecosystem, but they also help to mitigate storm surge and erosion. There are a variety of living seawall options, and they all turn basic gray infrastructure, concrete walls like these below, into green infrastructures like this living seawall installed in Sarasota, Florida in 2018. University of Miami is experimenting with a modular marine estuary system they call Sea Hive. As you can see here, it lies below the waterline, allowing water to flow through hollow hexagonal channels of concrete, lowering storm surge energy. The top can be filled with soil to grow coastal vegetation such as mangroves, which can now be professionally maintained, providing even more protection for storm surge as well as improving the marine environment. Pompano Beach's Wahoo Bay and North Bay Village in Miami-Dade are currently working with this group as part of their city's green engineering alternatives. And look at this, you can even see some homeowners that are adding them to their seawalls. This broken down Merle-Fogg seawall is scheduled for replacement. Why not add a living seawall? Living seawalls, mangroves, and hybrid reef designs are some of the many innovative resiliency projects currently underway in many coastal cities throughout the world and the U.S. Cities like San Francisco, Seattle, Boston, New York, and neighboring cities throughout our state are proving eco-engineering can help mitigate storm surge and help restore our priceless oceans and waterways. Even Broward County's land use policy from 3 years ago recommended green enhanced shorelines and seawalls. And living green infrastructures was also recommended at all the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer meetings that I attended these past few years in Miami, Miami-Dade, and in New York City. Unfortunately, when the Corps was here and they had a meeting in January, the public wasn't invited. Fort Lauderdale's tidal barrier ordinance is going before the commission for a second reading on March 23rd. Upon adoption, all new seawalls erected on previously natural shorelines will be required to provide habitat enhancement. What is the prospect of that ordinance passing? And will this ordinance include the new seawall projects? I'm sure all of you are for waterway restoration and a more storm-resilient Fort Lauderdale. As a representative for Residents for Resilience, I request that you please set up meetings with these leading scientists to gather more information on living seawalls so that Fort Lauderdale can move forward with including living material additions for all seawall projects through the city. And let's not forget mangroves too. Sometimes these small projects can have a big positive effect for all of Fort Lauderdale. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? Yeah, I'm going to ask our city staff to come up after people have spoken. So,
Okay. Great, thank you.
thank you, Susie. Dan Lindblade, Dan, are you here? Oh, there you are. Dan, followed by Janet Gualtieri, and followed by Jackie Scott.
Mayor, Commissioners, Dan Lindblade, Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce. It's interesting that Susie brought that up because as part of the South Florida Compact, we had a pitch night down at the Levan Center. One of the projects, one of the businesses that came in to pitch was exactly the living seawalls that you were talking about, and it was received very well. So yeah, that'd be something the Chamber would support for sure. The reason I'm here is just real quick. We need to move forward with the Las Olas mobility study that I served on and many, many other people served on for many, many months, years, as a matter of fact. We need to move this thing forward, so we're wanting to reiterate the Chamber's support for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Janet? How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you? Thank you for having me here today. I just have two quick questions.
Uh-huh.
The crosswalks that are going to go across Los Olas, there's some discrepancy of where exactly they're going to go. So I propose to the commission and to city employees, where exactly are these going to go? Originally, it was proposed one way. There was input to move them in a different location, so we're wondering exactly where they're going to go. So if we could,
Well,
Get
let's look at the Exhibit 1 on page 4. I guess there's one between Fiesta and Nurmi, and one between South Gordon and Montana. Am I right?
is that right?
Sorry, Mayor, I was walking up. One is at South Gordon and one is close to the Coral Way.
So what's on the exhibit is where they're going to be established, correct?
That's correct.
Janet, do you have any questions? Where'd you go?
Another question, follow-up question.
Where'd you go? Oh, there
I'm
you
right
are.
here. Too short behind Mr. Rogers here. No, we just want to definitively know exactly where they were going.
Okay.
The next question is, the two-way turns on 15th that we saw on the demonstration
Yes.
here, exactly how is that going to eliminate the congestion of our egress out of the aisles? Because every time there's an activity, this weekend, it took me an hour and a half to get from Nurmi Isles in Los Olas to CVS on Broward and US 1 and back, an hour and a half. That's totally uncalled for. So I really would like to know from city employees as well, how long, what are you doing and how is this going to eliminate our egress out of the aisles?
I can't answer that. Maybe Mr. Rogers can respond, but let me just say this. As you know, we're at the height of our season. And
Oh,
you,
yes.
And you know that it doesn't take an hour and a half in September. It just happens to be an hour and a half during spring break and in the height of our season. So trust me, I suffer through the same traffic. These are the visitors that come to our community that we depend on for maintaining our economy. Whether those two lane reconfigurations are going to change that, I can tell you right now without even asking Mr. Rogers that they're not, okay? We try to come up with alternative methods of trying to process traffic east-west. Some ideas have been great, some of the ideas have been rejected. So we're still working on that. Mr. Rogers, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but have I stated the city's position?
Yes, Mayor. I think the one thing I could add is we had conversations with Broward County at the intersection of Broward and 15th as well. We didn't advance those conversations as easily as we did for Los Olas, so we started with Los Olas and we'll continue to work on Broward.
Okay.
One just follow-up. I understand that there's activities, it's spring break, there was a Swimming Hall of Fame event, there was the art festival on Los Olas, understand that. But you could see with the Los Olas Art Festival that was going on, there were a lot of streets that were closed. And this built up on the traffic as well, because they didn't want parking on the side streets. So closing of those streets during these events cause problems as well. It's not only the people coming in that's gaining the revenue, it's the residents of us trying to get out and conduct our day-to-day activities that causes a problem. This Los Olas mobility project, I hopefully will take into consideration all of those, what happens in the event when you start opening and closing roads and streets.
So let me just say this. I've sat on this commission for a lot of years, and this has been a problem even before I sat on this commission. It's been traffic, especially Los Olas Boulevard, has always been a contentious issue because a lot of people think that Los Olas Boulevard, all the way down to the tunnel, should be a mobility traffic lane, and people should have unfettered access to that street. Then you have the merchants who say, we want to close the street down to one lane in each direction, make it more of a shopping experience as opposed to a travel experience. And so the commission a couple of years ago voted to create that design. So we have to look for alternative ways to go east-west, starting with 15th Avenue. But once you go west of 15th Avenue, folks cannot depend on that being a quick passageway. We have to find alternative routes to jump onto Broward Boulevard. 15th Avenue alone cannot be depended upon. I came up with a one-way pairing. It was rejected by the community. We may have to revisit that between 15th and 12th Avenue. So these are kinds of solutions that we've talked about, because there's only so many times you can repaint 15th Avenue. There's still hundreds of cars that need to pass that at that intersection. So
Yeah, because we're hearing that one of the alternatives is to close 16th. And that just cuts off a path that 15th is going to be even more overcrowded.
well, Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, how long did it take you to get,
1 hour and a half to get there and back.
how often
She spent
does
an
that-
hour at the store, by the way. No.
Picked up a prescription badly needed by my mom.
And how often are you in that situation? Is that a frequent thing that you're finding now, or like this is a one-off?
This one was one-off,
Okay.
but I will tell you, it's getting worse and worse, backing up on Los Olas.
And participated. It was robust, and we think it was a great project and a great experience. As it relates to now the traffic is being brought up through Coley Hammock, I think that there is a plan in place that we all agreed upon, that we would look at simply creating dual left-hand turns at both ends of Las Olas. I know that the traffic engineers said that will work, and before we look at anything else that would destroy 2 blocks in Coley Hammock, I think that we should give that a chance, and let's see if it works. So thank you very much for moving everything forward, and thanks to staff for the good job they've done.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Dr. Gassman, would you come up to the microphone and talk to us a little bit about the design of some of these seawalls that we're attempting to do going forward?
Yeah, so Nancy Gassman, Sustainability Division Director. In 2018, the city developed a seawall master plan. And that master plan was the basis of prioritizing which of the city-owned seawalls need to be elevated in order to ensure the resiliency of those locations moving forward against sea level rise. And so systematically, the city's been going through using that master plan to help us prioritize which seawalls we are currently raising that, again, are city-owned seawalls, usually that are adjacent to roadways. So our priority has been looking at how to improve the resiliency of those seawalls so that they protect the roadways that they are next to. And that has included putting in stock sheet pile seawalls. So we are putting in a sheet pile all the way down to bedrock, and then we're adding a concrete cap to the top of those. While living seawalls are a great idea, there is a cost associated with them, and we are using our resources as best as possible to ensure that we raise as many of the city seawalls as we can. The other challenge that we have with living seawalls at this time is that this is really a relatively new idea. And a lot of the pictures that Ms. Bailey showed you those are pilot projects, and that they're not actively available in the market at this time. One of the concerns that we have had in the past, and this is specific to Cordova, is that on the Cordova seawall, a number of the additional structures were screwed in, bolted to, attached to the seawall. And every time you make a penetration into a seawall, you weaken it. And a number of these living seawall products are exactly that. They are screwed into the seawalls. So there's a concern about putting in a brand-new seawall and then creating a situation where you're weakening the seawall by adding these additional structures to it. But as I noted, currently in the market, it's not easy to get these products. And I think that there's a number of opportunities for us in the future to look for grant funding to do this type of work. But the limited amount of money that we have from city coffers, we've been prioritizing for actually elevating the seawalls that we have prioritized.
But can these designs and the seawalls that we're replacing, can they be incorporated without having to be like an attachment to the wall? Can't they just be incorporated in the design so that we don't weaken the seawall?
So currently, that's again an emerging type of project. There are literally 3D printed seawalls that are being developed, but those are not on the market at this time. So there's no way to price those out. Again, as the market continues to mature, I think there are opportunities in the future, and there are some ways to retrofit, but it's a funding issue, and it's a market. The market's not ready for us to be able to take advantage of some of these.
Vice Mayor?
Do we have an opportunity to, even on a limited basis, do a pilot on a few of them as we go forward? Is that such an option?
And again, it's a funding issue, whether we have the available funds. If we want to make it's a matter of prioritization. Do we want to prioritize doing a pilot project, or do we want to continue to elevate the seawalls that we know we need to elevate?
I think that, Mr. City Manager, it would seem to me that we don't want to interfere with the timetable and the schedule that you have already set in place. I don't think we want to hold off on that. But in the process, there are other seawalls that we might consider, using as a pilot project and see if that works for Fort Lauderdale. Don't you think that might be appropriate?
So I just want to suggest that, yes, we can look at what these may cost, because as Dr. Gassman noted, we don't have a firm cost or even a firm vendor that we could determine the price, but we'd be glad to meet with the stakeholders that she presented. If I can get a copy of that, we'd be glad to talk about that and present to you what that pilot test would look like.
Okay, great. Any questions of Dr. Gassman? Thank you.
Thank you.
My only comment, Mayor, is just making sure that whatever path we go down is really the most cost-effective path, because we have a tremendous amount of work that we've got to do throughout the city on this. And so I think we need to be mindful of the lack of resources we have to address this issue and make sure that we are using that in the most effective fashion possible.
Well, I see what you're saying, Commissioner, but cost-effective, there's cost-effective, and then there's how do we protect our environment. And sometimes the savings on trying to do something that protects our environment is factored in a dividend that you perhaps can't really visibly see sometimes. But what we're doing is we're enhancing our natural environment by doing something that has been proposed by Mrs. Bailey. So, I mean, we could put a plain wall there, but you must admit there's some value in trying to enhance the natural habitat if we can, which does have dividends in other ways other than dollars and cents.
So I think where my focus is, Mayor, if we have 1,000 miles of seawalls to do, then we do it in a way that allows us to accomplish as much of that as possible, as opposed to doing less seawalls, but in a different manner. So yeah, I think we need to do as much as we can with the resources that we have.
And we all agree with it, but and like I said, the schedule of projects that we have, we don't want to interfere with. But if there is a project that we could perhaps in the future identify as a possible site for a pilot project, I think we'd be interested in doing that without. And I don't think we're talking major money here. I think the major money is in the seawall itself. The enhancement probably does have a cost, but I don't think it's going to be prohibitive. So that's all we're saying.
The question I have.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the lifespan of a seawall?
What is the last what?
The lifespan of a seawall.
Good question. It's not forever.
Alan Dodd, Public Works Director. Commissioner, we designed seawalls for a 50-year lifespan.
As a minimum, I think we should at least, like you said, Mr. Mayor, at least get the dialogue, explore it and just see what opportunities are out there. I
Yeah.
think it's worthwhile, for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, there being none, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Okay. Moving on to business 2, the update on the city attorney search. Mr.
Yes,
City Manager.
Mayor and Vice Mayor and Commissioners. So our HR Director is going to talk about the process, and you all have received the job description and also flyers that help us provide that recruitment possible.
Good afternoon, Mayor Commissioners. Jerome Post, your Human Resources Director. As our city manager said, you do have for your review the proposed timeline for the recruitment of the city attorney. We have also put forward a draft job description as well as the recruitment brochure for your review. If there are any comments for them, we can take them now. Otherwise, we are getting ready to post that position. We also included in your exhibits a copy of a resolution that was drafted for a similar search back in 2012 in the hopes of generating some discussion regarding how you'd like to proceed with a citizens review committee related to this search. I know the commission has in past meetings suggested they would like to have a citizens review committee, so we built that into the timeline. The option would be to forego that committee altogether and just rely on reviews and recommendations from the subject matter experts to present candidates to you for your review. So I'll take questions and.
Anyone have any
take
comments
direction.
on the approach? Mr. Vice Mayor, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I don't know if you were taking names. I already have somebody in mind if we are going to go ahead with that committee.
Well, I'd give it to staff. Right.
Yes. What we'll do, if you want to move forward with the Citizens Review Committee, we'll put a resolution forward for the next commission meeting that will allow us to establish that ad hoc advisory board, if you will, and we can do the names and or the nominees and vote for. The
So are
members
we
of the
looking,
board.
I forgot what we had said. Was it one appointee per member of the commission? Yeah.
That's what was discussed in one of the last meetings, yes. In the example that I provided for you, there were additional members added to that. So I just wanted to make sure that you still wanted to go with just one member per commissioner.
Okay. I think that's fair.
That's fair.
All right.
Yeah, Mayor, I did note that in that backup, they had 7 last time. I don't think we need 7 people on that. I think we definitely need to have it.
Well, there's one per commission member, and then there were 2
They
advisories.
they had a consensus appointment by the commission, and then they also had the current city attorney sitting on there as well for a total of 7. I'm not so sure we need that. I like our original idea of just 5, but.
Well, I don't understand. I would think that Dwayne could be an advisor to it. Why? Do you want to be a voting member of this thing?
No, in that case, it was the retiring city attorney who was asked to consult with that group. I prefer not to be involved in that process.
So maybe we can just stay with the 5 that we found. Yeah, I'm okay with the original 5 that we talked about in terms of a committee.
Okay, let's keep it at that. Keeps it simple. Okay, very good. Any questions? Please continue. Was there anything
No,
further? That's
no.
it?
If there's
Okay.
any other questions or?
Yes,
As far as the
Commissioner, go
appointee,
ahead.
how soon, are you asking for those names now? Sooner the better, correct?
The sooner the better, yes, but we'll be prepared for the next commission meeting with them.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does the person have to, what is the qualification? They have to work in the city of Fort Lauderdale or live in the city of Fort Lauderdale? What did we establish criteria for who would be eligible for this committee?
As I recall, advisory board committee members must reside within the city limits.
Okay.
I don't know what other criteria there are.
Or-
Mr. Spence might be able to provide.
Reside or work or live in. Yeah, so those are the criteria generally for our advisory.
Okay, so they can
committee
work
members,
here,
you
but
can
not necessarily have to
establish-
live here.
Correct.
Okay, great. Any further questions? Okay, there being none, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
All right, move on to business 3 regarding Lockhart. I believe the Lockhart folks wanted to make a presentation to begin this. Ms. Toothaker, do you want to step up here? Did you want to say something? Oh, you have a presentation here, okay. Are those jackets sold in the pro shop, Pablo? Those look nice.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. My name is Stephanie Toothaker. I represent Miami Beckham United, known as Enter Miami CF. You know Pablo Alvarez, who's the Vice President and General Counsel of Enter Miami CF, and my co-counsel, Chris Smith, is with me as well. And we also have a cheering squad in the background there, which are a lot of staff, coaches, and a lot of people that are very excited about their partnership with the city of Fort Lauderdale. So I just thought, since this was on the agenda, we thought it might be a good opportunity just to provide an update. We haven't done that in quite some time, and we just wanted to go through just a little bit of history and kind of where we sit today, and appreciate the time.
Sure, go ahead.
And I promise I won't take a lot. So as you know, in 2019, Enter Miami submitted an unsolicited proposal to build a $60 million state-of-the-art stadium and training facility. And of course, Enter Miami also committed that it would provide community site improvements, including a running and walking trail, public park, playground, dog park, public fields, and a field maintenance building. The city and Enter Miami entered into this venture as partners, and entered into an interim agreement in 2019 and subsequently a comprehensive agreement later that year. Because of the partnership between Enter Miami and the city of Fort Lauderdale and their joint desire to have the stadium open for the 2020 MLS season, there were many discussions amongst the parties wherein they agreed that Enter Miami would do certain things, such as demolish the unusable stadiums, but that the city would be responsible for the cost of providing Enter Miami with a pad-ready site. And actually, in 2013, the city had considered demolishing the site themselves, and had actually received an assessment from Kimley Horn that was shared with Enter Miami. So it was a good baseline for discussions. I just wanted to show some historical photos. It's kind of fun to look back and see what was there. The stadiums that were there, you know, I grew up here, so I went to Striker games, and we had some really great things out there. But at the time that Enter Miami approached the city, these stadiums had been abandoned. And in fact, they had been abandoned for quite some time. You can see, in fact, I think I remember there was a couch in the middle of one of the the fields that we took some fun pictures on before we started our demolition journey. Just some more pictures of what the sites look like. So then Enter Miami, of course, performed demolition on the sites, and we're just sharing against just some photos of kind of how we got to where we are. So again, you know, the parties entered into a very, you know, trustful relationship with each other, and Enter Miami also intended to build the park at that time, but it didn't happen because the city asked us to hold off, and we actually attended a lot of community meetings with the district commissioner at the time. So a lot of things that were discussed and because of the partnership just didn't show up. For example, all of the documents make reference to the fact that the stadium was training facility were meant to be $60 million. It actually turned out to be closer to $170 million, what the investment was. And of course, Enter Miami also constructed a community turf field for Fort Lauderdale, for the Fort Lauderdale-based public schools to have a home field, and they did that at their own cost. So what about this great community field? So we thought we would just share some of the games that have happened here. Fort Lauderdale uses it as I think Chris, your son, plays in this field, and so these are just some of the great games that have been held in the community field. It's been really well received, and just some attendance numbers that we have. Unfortunately, as a result of COVID-19, the 2020 season did not actually get kicked off. We actually were 2 days before, we were sitting in the training facility talking about the fact that we were still intending to go forward with our opening season game, and unfortunately we got the call that the NBA had shut down, and of course MLS followed, so that didn't happen. But what did we use the stadium for? Well, we received a call from the then city manager, the state of Florida, and Broward Health, and they said we'd really like to use Enter Miami as a COVID site for vaccinations. So Enter Miami stepped up, and they provided that site, and that's where a lot of people, myself included, actually went and got their COVID vaccinations. They've also got a tremendous amount of community partnerships and impact, and I wanted to just share some of those. So Enter Miami launched a Captain's Forum. Enter Miami has hosted the Broward Public Schools Caliber Awards, which has been really widely acclaimed. They hosted a second annual book fair at Oriole Elementary and added Frederick Douglass Elementary School as well. Inter Miami hosts its second annual Serving Those Who Serve Us Thanksgiving event at Drive Pink Stadium, and you can see they're there in the training facility enjoying it. It's a voting location. Inter Miami hosted a celebration of Little Haiti and continues to do so. Inter Miami hosted FC Barcelona at Drive Pink Stadium. Inter Miami David Beckham hosted a send-off for Special Olympics team at the Drive Pink Stadium. Inter Miami hosted an equipment drive at Drive Pink Stadium. They hosted autism soccer at Drive Pink Stadium. Inter Miami hosted Women in Sports panel at Drive Pink Stadium. Inter Miami and the Global Institute of Sport, which is an English school, opened up a North American campus at Drive Pink Stadium. Drive Pink hosts the prestigious Broward County Public Schools Caliber Awards again. Season-long projects, Drive Pink Stadium hosts All-American Cancer Society. You can see we use the fields for American Cancer Society. They launched a literacy program with the students at Oriole. Again, served those that serve Thanksgiving, because these are recurring events. Inter Miami hosts Auto Nation for Drive Pink across America, where the players, Auto Nation, fill 2,500 comfort bags for cancer patients and then deliver these to the hospitals. Inter Miami hosts First Responders for Fun football tournament in the stadium. Inter Miami teams up with Kick Childhood Cancer. Inter Miami hosts Equipment Drive Pink at the stadium. UKG donate supplies for back to school. Inter Miami and P&G team up to recognize those making a difference through football in the Hispanic community. Drive Pink hosts terminally ill patients for special first team match to coach the team. Inter Miami launches Special Olympics team at Drive Pink Stadium, celebrates the military coming home, donates money to support Surfside tragedy. Inter Miami launched a mentorship program and hosted the Boys and Girls Club of Broward. I was involved in that one as well. That was extremely well received. And Inter Miami and Auto Nation team up to drive out breast cancer. Together, the club raised $125,000 during the 2021 season for cancer research. Toy drives during the holidays, virtual learning for back-to-school programs. They participate in food drives. Again, childhood cancer, more food relief. They did drives for COVID relief. Food distribution, teamed up with David Guetta for United at Home, raising money for Feeding South Florida. Inter Miami joins StreamAid to help raise $2.7 million for COVID relief. And I bring all those up, and I think that's an important point, because those are all things that they do. Those are not events that they charge for. Those are events that they've opened up the stadium to have community partnerships with important people in the community. And I just wanted to share a couple of quick statistics, and then I'm done. 14 out of our 29 first team players live in the city of Fort Lauderdale, and they call Fort Lauderdale their home. 24 of our 29 first team players call Broward County their home. 48 out of 155 academy players call Broward County their home. 102 of 225 of our front office and supporting staff, many of whom are here, call Broward County their home. And Inter Miami was recently voted as the most popular MLS team in the entire league. And just a fun fact, we had our, to record-breaking crowds, we had our opening game. And I thought it would be really neat to share that the player that kicked one of the winning kicks in that winning game actually grew up in the academy. His father is the mayor of North Lauderdale, and he's an academy kid that was chosen from North Lauderdale and pulled all the way up and actually played. You can see this amazing headline from the Miami Herald and this amazing statistic. So we wanted to just tell you how much we appreciate our partnership with the city of Fort Lauderdale. We think we've done some great things. We continue to, appreciate our friendship and our partnership, and we thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Well, and we appreciate all the things that you've done and what the team has done, what the organization has done. Obviously, in the last couple of years, been a tremendous, tremendous contribution to the city of Fort Lauderdale. But what we're really here for right now is I want to talk about the comprehensive agreement. I think the commission wants to hear a little bit more. Attached to the comprehensive agreement was a schematic for the 20 acres that lies to the south, and that's important to us right now. Mr. Alvarez, do you want to step up?
Yep.
attached to that agreement is a schematic, which is on page, hold on a second. On page 43 of 43, the last page. Now, there is, seems to be upside down, but whatever. There is a design there for the development of the site to the south of the stadium. And I see on that site, there's various playing fields, there's a water feature, some parking and all that. And I believe there's a section there that is identified as a park. There's a dog park. Is that something that you're prepared to build going forward? Is this something that we can count on Inter-Miami going forward to building what we agreed to in this plan?
Here, okay. Absolutely. All the deliverables under the comprehensive agreement, which are spelled out there as the community benefits, we've been ready and in discussions with the city to deliver those when the city is ready. I think what's caused some of the delays is that in addition to those 4 or 5 deliverables, some of the commissioners thought it'd be a good idea to expand that vision. And if you see in the rendering you were referring to, there's community centers, splash pools, swimming pools, and other additional amenities that were going to be added, and those were subject to discussion amongst the city officials and agreement.
Well, I think the community center was going. I think we had agreed that was going to be the city's expense, but we had sort of set aside land there that was going to accommodate the community center. But my conversations, I remember, with the then city commissioner and also with your folks, was that was going to be a city expense. But aside from that, everything else, you're prepared to go forward and build as you see here in this design?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, and when would you be prepared to do this? Like
as
soon as we get give you the permits?
No, as soon as the city presents what ultimately they want there, right? There's the 2 provisions in the comprehensive agreement. One says that whatever is going to be built there has to be by mutual agreement of the parties. And so we have to agree that this is what's going to be developed. Right?
Is this not part of the agreement?
What's that?
Isn't this part of the agreement? Would you not say that we agreed to this already?
Well, Exhibit 4 is a conceptual depiction. I don't think you yourselves have agreed to do everything that's in this conceptual depiction.
So you're saying this is just conceptual and not definitive?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, it's referenced there in Exhibit 4. It's referenced, I can find the section in the comprehensive agreement that specifically says that Exhibit 4 is a conceptual depiction, and there's a provision in the agreement that says that we have to have mutual agreement of the parties as to what will be developed. We are prepared to deliver all of the deliverables under the comprehensive agreement once the commission decides what you want to do with the rest of it. Do you want to have a pool? Do you want to have a splash pad? Do you want to have a community center? If you want to add all of these additions, and the reason why this didn't get developed while we were actually constructing the project originally is because at the time there wasn't consensus, and there was a concern that if we went in and spent money and did the improvements that we were required to do, you were going to have to come back and tear them up if you decided to change the layout. And so pending, so what's happened since then, right? So pending a definitive decision between the city as to what they want ultimately to be in that park, we've been parking on that property, or a component of that property, and I think today we've paid in excess of $300,000 to the city in parking fees. So while the city has been waiting to make a decision as to what they want to do in the park, we've been parking and you've been getting the benefit of those parking fees. So we've kind of coexisted waiting a decision, but whenever you're ready, we're ready.
Okay. I see Commissioner Herbst is asked to speak. Commissioner Herbst.
Sure, thank you. So we've had a revised conceptual drawing going back to June of 2021. We worked with our team at AECom to develop that, so that's been ready to go for quite a while now. And last year, the commission approved a 1-year extension to the construction timeline for the park. So what has happened from that point to today?
Well, from that point to today, you would have had to have voted on it. You would have had to have gotten the funding for it. And then we would have had to agree as to what my contribution is in dollars to the park that you're envisioning versus the offsets that we've agreed to, which are the reimbursement for the pad-ready cost or the demolition cost and the handling of the fees.
Okay, so if I'm clear, then Inter-Miami is waiting for the city to
Vote on it,
give
I
you
think.
direction and vote on this. So that's really what we've been waiting on since last year.
Yes, the city has to agree as to what they want and vote on it, and then we have to sit down because, like I said, what it's proposed in this depiction is a much greater park than what is under the comprehensive agreement. So to the extent that you want to do something in addition to, then we need to work out, what we're going to do, what you're going to do, et cetera.
So
Do you have a
I think
copy?
that's always been understood because, as the mayor explained, we have money in the Parks Bond that was specifically designated for the development of certain aspects of Lockhart Park, and we're prepared to move forward on those things that are not covered under the comprehensive agreement. Certainly, I would not expect Inter-Miami to pay for anything that's not in the comprehensive agreement. My goal is always to stick within the four corners of the agreement so that Inter-Miami knows what its obligations and expectations are under the agreement, as does the city. So we will pay for those things that are not covered under the agreement. You will pay for those things that are covered under the agreement. And that's the nature of the partnership and collaboration that we have. So I think, Mayor, then we have a conceptual design. So my district, my community, under the leadership of former Commissioner Moritas, has had extensive charrettes and meetings with the homeowners associations, with various stakeholders throughout the community, and we've had a very clear idea of what we wanted at that location for, again, going back to June of 2021.
Where is that?
Well, would you hand this out? So we've taken the prior plan that was developed, and the only thing that I've added to this, and this is as a result of all the conversations we've had with respect to Snyder Park and pickleball, we took one of the multi-purpose fields and we've converted that to 16 pickleball courts, because we now know apparently pickleball is the greatest thing ever invented. And so I want to be respectful of that, and we think that Lockhart Park is a great destination for pickleball courts. Certainly the noise from the paddles and the balls is not going to antagonize anybody up at the
screaming
airport.
every time someone wins,
I
yes.
don't think it'll be a problem. So and
Hey,
we also
you.
think
No noise out of you.
and we also think it's a good destination type amenity. As we understand, people drive down from Palm Beach just to come play pickleball, so I think they'll drive to Lockhart to continue to do the same thing.
All right, so we're good. So
We're
District
good to
1
go.
is good with this.
Right. So what I'd like to do, and I've had a conversation with the city manager, is AECom is under contract with us, and so I've asked him to move forward with a task order to finalize the design so that we can come up with final pricing on this. And I think that's kind of the next step, is for us to go ahead with that.
Have you seen this?
Yep, I'm seeing it now.
Yep. We've shared that with them. We've provided this to them during our conversations.
Okay. So, so why don't we move forward and let the task order be created and let the city commission vote on it.
Well, actually, we don't vote on the task order, so we already have that in place. We have a contract with AECom to do this. So what we need to do is simply give the city manager direction to move forward with the task order.
Right, but I mean, we haven't voted on this yet.
We have not voted on that design. That's the one that we've been working on and developing.
Right. So this is so Greg, how do we get to vote on this? When does this become concrete enough for us to vote on? Because do we need pricing on this? I think AECom is going to do the pricing. Is that what you said?
AECom will do the design and the pricing, and then we need to, and I've asked staff to go through the comprehensive agreement, determine which components of that plan are covered under the comprehensive agreement as being the responsibility for Inter-Miami, and the other components, for example, the pickleball courts and the community center, which the community has asked us to incorporate, will be covered under the funds available on the Parks Bond for Lockhart.
Okay, so
we would have to detail out the costs, like the commissioner mentioned, and we could present that at a future meeting.
Okay.
And you all can then review and
decision
consider and vote.
Right, and that's typically how we would proceed with something like this, Mayor, is we do the design, we have final cost estimates once we get further into the design process, and then at that point, when we decide to move forward, I think is a point at which we would then issue something for construction.
Okay, so that's great. Okay, so we're prepared to move forward then, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so what's the next step?
So we can do that, certainly. Phil and staff will work with AECOM to get that available for a future meeting. We're also wanted to just confirm direction from the commission on the pending TCO and also on the use of parking. So I just wanted to have clarity on and direction on that. I asked for your
Wait,
guidance.
say that again?
So there's a TCO that expires March 12th.
Right.
And so I wanted to get direction on the ability of extending that.
I mean, I think we should be able to do that.
Well,
we're
Mayor,
on a path here.
that is contingent upon the payment of the outstanding building permit fees. And again, this is something that was part of the negotiations that I was having with Inter-Miami. As we recall, the commission empowered me to negotiate certain things with Inter-Miami, so I would request and caution the commission not to negotiate from the dais with respect to these items. These are things that are part of an ongoing discussion. I think we are in a position where we can make progress working together, but I think if 5 of us are going to negotiate in public from the dais, I think we do ourselves a disservice.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I don't see why we can't just extend the TCO while you're negotiating.
Well, because I want the outstanding building permit fees, $1.3 million are owed to the city, and need to get payment on those items. And I'm going to use other examples. So
We were investing a significant sum of money. We were not going to take title to the property. There would be no liens and no encumbrances. It was a $170 million equity investment. Those buildings are titled in the name of the city. They don't belong to Inter-Miami. Therefore, they're the city's buildings. So those building and impact fees are going to be handled the same way the city would handle any building and impact fees, buildings that they build for themselves, because this is your building.
Section 13.18 of the agreement states that the written agreement contains all of the provisions of the agreement between Inter-Miami and the city, and that there is nothing outside of the 4 corners of that agreement. So to the extent that there were outside parole agreements made, I don't think they're enforceable under this contract.
Yeah, well, Florida case law will establish that the parties can modify a written agreement by oral agreement by the actions of the parties. We've been operating at this site for 3 years, waiting for a resolution on the issue of the building fees, on the issues of the credit that we're owed for the demolition, and on what we owe you for the park deliverable. And in the meantime, we've been coexisting, and you've been collecting rent. So clearly, both parties have agreed, and we've coexisted this way. And what we propose
Actually,
to
we
do,
don't. Let me interrupt you. We don't get rent.
You've been getting rent.
$1 a year.
No,
No, for the
been
park.
collecting. You've
No,
been collecting.
that's not true.
$300,000 in parking fees.
No, parking fees is one thing, but
Okay.
we're not talking about parking fees.
No,
We're
we are.
talking-
We're-
I'm not- No, sir, I'm not talking about parking fees. That's a separate and distinct issue from the stadium. We collect no rent on the stadium.
No, you collect the rent that we negotiate under the comprehensive agreement. What I stated was that during this time that we were figuring out, and there was, again, if you're disputing that there was an oral agreement between us and the city, then we will have, like I told you before, we will have to go on the record, we will have to do a public records request, we will have to have depositions. Because
Again,
there's
Mayor,
the
I
agreement, let me
request that we
finish, let me
stop this
finish, please.
conversation at this point.
Can I
I
finish?
request that we stop this conversation. We are negotiating, and we're now
No, we're not
discussing
negotiating, we're
litigation from the-
establishing the record. We're not negotiating, and I'm here, and I'm answering the questions. We have an agreement with the city, we're partners with the city, we intend to work this out with the city. We propose to go to mediation so that a third party can help us come to a meeting of the minds of where we are. I owe you some things, and you owe me some things, and that's where we are, that's what we're trying to resolve. But when you present us with this idea that when it's convenient, there's only 4 corners of the agreement, but in the meantime, you're collecting parking fees. Clearly, we had an understanding, and that's what we've been working under. And so all we're trying to do is find an equitable resolution so that both of us can continue to benefit from the relationship we've established. That's all.
Well, maybe mediation is important here. Maybe we should consider that, because I want to bring closure to this, because we've been talking about it for a couple of years now, and I've been hearing that the city somewhere along the line agreed to pay for the demolition costs, and at some point also agreed to offset those demolition costs with the payment of the fees. So I mean, I've been hearing this, but when I read the comprehensive agreement, maybe my untutored eye can't see it, but it doesn't really speak to that. Okay, I know, but I have spoken to the parties that were involved with it, like Chris Lagerbloom, who said, yes, we did agree to it. So I think honestly, I think we could probably gain a lot if we just do some sort of mediation so we get the parties involved.
Absolutely.
Does the rest of the commission agree with that? I think we should probably just really finally get this thing resolved one way or the other. And I think that Inter-Miami will accept the result. I know the city will accept the result, but I just think that I want to get this done. I want to get this park area. I'm not going to call it a park because it's not just a park. It's a park area because we've got pickleball courts, we've got dog park, we got recreation park, we have everything. We even have parking. So I want to see that done as much as everybody else wants to see that done. I would recommend that, Mrs. City Attorney, that we find someone who could mediate this. I've spoken to a couple people as just in random conversation. I know Jack Seiler, who once represented the city in another mediation dispute we had. I think it was in relation to the police building that we're building. He served as a mediator. We need to get this done. So if the parties can agree to that, then we need to move this thing forward.
We're ready, willing, and able.
Well, Mayor, we actually have a pathway to move forward. So we are at this point able to move forward with the construction of the park. So we've already directed the city manager to issue a task order to AECom to do that. If we want to.
Well, I agree with you there.
Under the comprehensive,
that we can do.
Right, under the comprehensive agreement, we can move forward with the construction of the park and work out the dollars involved later. So we can do this on our own. Comprehensive agreement provides for that. So I don't think these are two separate issues.
They are two separate issues. Okay. So, but the issue came up because of the extension of the TCO.
Right.
So that we need to be able to continue to move forward as we try to build the park. And so I don't see how they conflict with each other. They can travel down parallel paths. So we need to extend the TCO and allow these folks to start the construction based on the task order that AECom will provide for us in terms of the next steps. And I think we can move forward, and this will be hopefully finally get this thing done and for the benefit of the community. So if we're good with that, then so the next steps are the issuance of the task order and the extension of the TCO. And I personally feel that this should go to mediation because there's just too many voices that have expressed too many convergent points of view. There's what we see in the comprehensive agreement. There's what Inter-Miami is saying, and then being part of this process for the last couple of years, I remember conversations with Chris Lagerbloom, with Alan Boileau, and with Inter-Miami in which certain agreements were made. They're not specifically that I could identify in the agreement. I'm totally with you there.
Right.
But the law does say that agreements can be modified, and so I want to be able to give everyone the benefit of the doubt and to be fair. I don't want people to come to the city to think that they're going to be jerked around, because we're not that kind of a city. So I appreciate all the work that Inter-Miami has done. I mean, just look at the presentation tonight. I just think that they're a wonderful working partner, and I want to continue to keep that good faith relationship that we've had for all these many months with you. So thank you.
Mayor, if I can get a clarification on one point with regards to the design of the park. Is it the position of the commission that you're taking your right to self-help and remedying the park situation, or is Inter-Miami agreeing to the city heading up the design work under the contract?
I think we're not doing the self-help. What do you mean self-help? Because there is a clause there that if they don't build the park within a certain amount of time, the city can go in there itself and charge them. I saw that clause.
So I'm concerned that the agreement provides for Miami Beckham to do the design work subject to our approval. And so that's what I want clarification on.
Are you okay with our doing the design work?
Well, you have to because you're adding the additional components. If it was just my design, it would be.
We should do the design work.
We should do the design work.
Thank you. I just wanted that clear on the record.
So in terms of this, are we talking about this being binding? So if we're going to mediation,
arbitration?
Is this binding? Yes, right. So I want to know what we're talking about here. So
well,
I want a time frame,
I don't want it to be binding because I
understand.
want this commission to have I want this commission to be able to make the final decision. I
But
don't want to take
here's
that
my,
away from us.
here's my problem with that, Mayor. I don't want to spend the next 6 to 9 months in mediation.
No, no, no. This
and
should
then-
be done in
and then
60
have
days.
that thrown out and start over
No,
again.
this should be done in 60 days.
Okay.
That's what
Is that reasonable, Dwayne? That we put a time frame of 60 days that we get this resolved? Because again, we're going to miss our July deadline for the 1-year extension that was established by
We're
this
gonna get
commission
this
last
thing-
year.
Commissioner, we're going to get this done. I agree with you. We're going to get this done. We're going to get it done as timely as possible. Hopefully, we can get the mediation concluded within 60 days, come back to the commission with a response. I do think the commission should ultimately weigh in on this, but I have every good faith that the mediator will be able to come up with a just resolution.
So we'll immediately send recommended, a list of recommended mediators, and you can exchange and we'll select. But once it gets into the mediation process, we have no control over that. That's the mediator has control over that timeline. So I just want to.
But I think that the issues are simple, and I don't believe the parties are unavailable, and I think we can get that thing very quickly done. So, are we good with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mayor?
All right.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Are we okay then, for sure, with the TCO extension? And also,
Yeah.
what about parking beyond this month? Where are we with parking?
Well, that's what I'd like to get clarity on as well.
Yeah, so I believe I think we've agreed to extend the TCO, knowing that we are both working in good faith to get this process moving forward. Does that make sense?
So we're extending the TCO until
For
such
the
time as
60 days,
mediation
for the
is done.
60 days, the end of the mediation.
Okay, and is it your expectation that we're going to extend parking on the park for that same period of time?
Well, I think it makes sense. I mean, we're not using it for anything, and they're paying us for it, so why not? The city's getting paid, what, $300,000?
Well, that's what you made. I don't know exact numbers. It's a per car.
Not for that portion. Not
What's
for that portion. So they charge 25, we get 10, they get 15.
Yeah, but they also have to pay for police, they have to pay for security.
Understood.
Yeah, it's not a net, so.
Understood.
No one's making any money on this,
It's
except us.
It's a lot cheaper for them to get our parking than it is to build a parking garage at $30,000 a spot, so.
Don't disagree with you.
Just so we're clear on that.
Okay, so you have your instructions, Mr. City Manager.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
John, you're okay with that? Just want to make sure.
No, I'm not. I will accept this as a direction forward, but I'm not okay. I did not want to negotiate this from the dais, and that's what we've just done, so I'm not happy at all.
Mr. Ansari, did you want to speak? Yes. Okay. Come on up. Share with us your pearls of wisdom.
Thank you. I just want to say one thing. First of all, I agree with you on finding out what happened by the Casablanca Cafe on that road work. We need to find who did that and bring him to justice. That's not the kind of city that we are. I definitely, agree with you on that. And thank you for making such a strong stance on that. I want to talk about one thing. I went to striker games too, and when we all grew up here. And, I think it was a crime that we let the New York Yankees get away. That should have never happened. That would have go back to those days. I mean, it was the New York Yankees, not the Kansas City Royals, for crying out loud. And that would have been still have a big coup for the city. But I want to talk about these P3s. And I think part of the case I wanted to talk about was just proven. It seems that we don't know even what we're entering. The agreements are just so vague. We don't know, they don't know. There's questions with everybody. And I would like to say it would be the same thing as the P3 that we are entering into on Snyder Park. Things that were said originally have been changed, just like the agreements are written in pencil and not in pen. And they're subject to change, at any time. And not so much this commission for this project, the commission that was before you guys, where 3 of them quit. It seems to be that there's connections with the developers, there's connections with their attorneys, with the people on the dais, on both this commission and the past commission. And these are unsolicited proposals, meaning nobody else had a chance to bid. It was their deal, and that was it, and that was completely accepted.
That's not exactly how it works.
No, that's not true.
But I'm not going to debate it. This is your time.
Thank you very much. And it seems also like you guys on these P3s, you just get blinded by, and on these agreements blinded by some of these people presenting these P3s. It was Elon Musk in his tunnel. Oh my gosh, Elon knows my phone number. It was the Florida Panthers at Holiday Park. It's David Beckham here. It was Alan
have his
Bogdanov
number.
for Snyder Park. Miss Toothaker for out there. You know, you guys just you have these big names and these famous people, and you just can't say no. You know, that's what it seems to me.
Okay.
That and there's one thing, you know, and we're talking about the Las Olas. It was the lifelong residents' lives matter here. It seems like we're kind of being pushed aside for people coming in to move here, the tourists. There's people that live here in our residents. And, you know, sometimes our vision is not quite what your vision is for the city. And we matter also. And, but I just like to say you gotta be more careful on these P3s, especially with what's happening at Snyder Park. With obviously a lot of people don't understand the one that's happening at Lockhart. I mean, the presentation was fantastic. I mean, what they've done was great, but what about all this other stuff they promised that is not being done?
So we're going to get to that.
I know, and the same as Snyder Park.
Okay.
You got to look at what they promised and what they're not going to deliver.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, just as a clarification, for the record, this discussion is about the city commission's desire. There is no intent on the commission to impose themselves on the building officials' authority to act under the Florida statute with regards to the issuance of the TCO. That's solely within his purview. I think he can consider the fact that the commission is desirous of this mediation process, but I just want to be clear that you're not directing the official to do anything in particular.
No, I don't want to violate the law. You're right.
All right, thank you.
One last comment.
Who's speaking? Oh.
You're right. Wait. I wasn't here during the negotiation, and I have to defer to the three of you who were here, and what might or not have been said and what isn't written. And but I feel for John. I mean, he wants to get his park done. It's in his district, and I don't want anything we're doing here to impede. I mean, if he could continue to negotiate on our behalf and try to get that park done. I know we're going, if we go to mediation, but you will continue to, whatever we need to do to get your park done.
Why do you keep saying it's his park?
Well, it's in his district, and he knows what his, no, it's not, it's a
We'll
city
name it
park.
the John Herbst
No,
Park.
but it's in his district. We have a
Mayor, if I
history
can
of
get
diversion.
if I can get it done, we will name it the Mayor Trantalis Park as long as I can get it done.
But I would like both parties to continue to work together to, whatever we could do to get that park a
We all
reality.
agree. We all agree.
Right.
Well, actually, I think, if I may, I'm sorry,
Right.
Commissioner Sturman, I think at this point, if we're going to mediation, we need to discontinue all conversations between the parties until we go through that. So I would suggest that we have no more meetings between representatives and individual commissioners or anything else. So mediation, very similar to a legal process, all that needs to stop at this point. We can't have backdoor communications if
I
we're going to go
agree.
through a mediation process.
And 100%. One less meeting I have to have.
Right.
Okay,
But
thank you.
whatever
Right.
it takes to get that park done is.
Okay. All right, let's move on to business 4, the Florida Department of Education Course Code Directory. Who's here to speak on that? No one?
I am, if, that's about our.
Oh, is that something you had
resolution.
brought up?
That's about our resolution, right?
Oh, is this about our resolution? Oh, okay. So the issue has definitely continues to evolve as the legislature is now in session and more issues continue to come up. I'm wondering if we should wait till the end of the session and then put together the list of feelings that we have. Commissioner Beasley Pittman, what are your thoughts now?
What I was gonna suggest, because, last time we were here, we were given the walk-on resolution, and I asked that we wait because it was 6 pages, and I wanted to make sure I read it over and was in agreement with or the intent of what we wanted. And with what was presented, I'm not in support of this language. I don't believe it is representing what we were trying to express. It's really mirroring what Broward County Commission was saying. So I'm asking if we could look at this again, asking that we even urge the school board, who has not issued a resolution at all, our school board, that they issue a proclamation that would even address the fact that what has been removed from that course, being that the school board, they are the governing body for the education. So I'm asking if we could go in that direction, even citing the fact that there are modern-day activists who are addressing the fact that we have individuals who are definitely advocating for the fact that we have to make the statements about what we need to be saying in this time regarding the resolution.
So instead of, so to whom would a resolution be directed from your perspective? To whom would we be directing it? To the school board?
The Broward County School Board, yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Asking them
That they haven't addressed anything about the AP being removed, that course being removed by the governor, asking that they need to draft something that would be relatable to what is missing from that resolution, because by doing so, they will be addressing the needs and the desire of the students in our county and our city.
So you're thinking that they should shoulder the burden of advocating what's best for their curriculum rather than the City Commission of Fort Lauderdale speaking directly to the government in Tallahassee with regard to these issues of advanced placement for African American studies and so forth and so on. You don't think we should, because the original point was to speak directly to the legislature because they were the ones making the laws, telling the school boards what to do. The school board, you're saying the school board has not yet taken a position or is not yet?
To my understanding, they have not.
Do we know if the school board has done anything?
So, Ms. Daphne
Daphne,
Seville
you
is
wanna- you
available
wanna
to
step
speak
up?
on that.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. It's my understanding that the school board has not yet taken a position on the AP African American Studies issue.
Are they, when you say not taken a position, have they changed their course curriculum without making a statement to the legislature, or what have they done? I know they banned some of the books because, I mean, some of the, not just African American studies, but other studies. I mean, I went to an event last week and the centerpieces were the books themselves that had to be, it was like a protest statement. The centerpiece on the tables were the very books that the government asked that they be banned. So it's more than just African American studies. It's there's a whole gamut of restrictions now that are being imposed. Has the school board just done this, just started to accept the restrictions, or have they resisted? Do they have African American studies in their curriculum?
I would have to check with my connection over at the school board to see what they've decided to do. My understanding is that the AP African American Studies is still awaiting a decision from the Department of Education as to whether or not it would be implemented. I believe it is being implemented, but before I actually speak with certainty, I want to double check the facts.
Well, I think that the College Board modified the curriculum that they were going to require in order for it to be an advanced placement course.
Correct.
But even that was offensive because they diluted
Right.
the very essence of what advanced placement and African American studies would all be about. So that I didn't want to support that. Remember?
They removed the history. They have defined what they believe is offensive or not pertinent to our history.
Right. And how can you have African American studies if you don't know the history? So I'm wondering, has the school board sanitized its course curriculum already in advance, knowing that that's what the directive of the Department of Education would be expecting of them?
I can find out and get back with you on an absolute answer.
All right.
Again, I think we should go in the direction of the school board.
You think that's more politic to do it to them rather than poke the bear?
I'm not concerned about poking the bear,
Well.
but I will tell you this. We are a part of this county, and if the educational governing body is not addressing it, someone needs to say, let's address this.
So why don't we find out for sure what their intentions are, and then we can make that decision then. Does that make sense to you?
To me, it does.
Okay. Any other comments? Vice Mayor, do you have any thoughts on this?
I support Pam's, Commissioner Beesman's position 100%.
Steve, you're the educator too. You've been a teacher.
Yes, I have.
Was it kindergarten?
In fact, it was actually high school, and I actually taught many of the books that I now find on banned lists, which is interesting to me.
I read them all.
It's a different.
Ironically.
It's it's a different day. That's all I'm going to say. And you're correct. I was a teacher for almost 20 years, and I find much of this frightening and actually very sad. So let me just address how I feel about us doing a resolution to the school board. The school board, they're getting their marching orders from the State Department of Education and the legislature by these bills that are getting passed and the policies that are implemented. I'm not sure what it does for us as a city to tell the school board, hey, how do you feel? We know how they feel. The teachers are leaving in droves. There are openings all over the place. Look at the politics on the school board. What are they going to do? We're going to say to them what? We're going to say to them, can you please pass a resolution saying that you don't like what's going on? Of course they don't like what's going on. So I'm not so sure what that accomplishes. I think as a city, we have to say what we feel is important for our students in our city. And that's why I do believe that the typical route of a city resolution is the route that we should take. It should be addressed to the state. It should be addressed to everyone that we typically write to, our legislative delegation from the county, the head of the Senate and the House, and the governor's office, everyone. That's typically where our resolutions go. Again, I don't know what we're going to accomplish by saying to the school board anything, because they're in such a precarious situation. They're worried about their own jobs. Teachers are worried about saying certain things in the classroom that could make them lose their job. So I don't know, I'm having a hard time understanding what it is we're gonna say to the school board. I just don't, maybe if we can get some clarity. But I would also love to hear, Commissioner Beasley-Pittman, because you said you found some problems with the walk-on that we received. I think maybe we should workshop it. I mean, I've gone through it several times. I think it's a good document that our attorney's office came up with. Mayor, I also wanted to address the fact that you mentioned that the AP did change, but they didn't change in the way that I think many people think. They're still fighting. In fact, their statements have been stronger. This has not been resolved. The state, though, is looking at perhaps other ways of other companies to hire, other ways to go to create those advanced placement classes that save our students so much time from college courses. So there is a movement right now to maybe just ignore the AP and the College Board and look at other agencies that might provide that. I don't know where that stands in terms of credentials. I don't know where that stands because if the state does do away with the College Board and AP courses, I believe they'll also be doing away with the SAT, which is part of that organization as well. So I don't know how you get rid of all of that and help. So I guess what I'm going to say is I'm still in favor of doing a resolution to the state. Obviously, it would be sent to the school board, whatever we would decided, but they're not the decision makers. These bills, this legislation, these policies are not coming from the school board of Broward County. So I don't know why we would write to the school board of Broward County, and what would we say? I think you have to address the people that are making the decisions and also creating the situation in the schools that do affect our students. So I'm still in favor of what we were looking at the last few times. I've looked at the county's their resolution. It's a little bit more general in terms of academic freedom. Ours was a little bit more specific in terms of the advanced placement program. I still think there could be a combination of the two. But I also wanted to say something else, and Mayor, you touched upon it when you said the session just started yesterday and, you know, there's so much happening. Maybe it's best that we don't totally lose our minds and address every single bill that comes down the pike. Maybe we do something a little bit more general, like we wrote in our legislative delegation piece that we did approve for our advocacy to the state. Maybe we do just try and make the state understand what we wrote in that document in terms of issues that affect our city. And maybe our resolution is broader, maybe not even so specific as to just address the AP program or to address anything else. I mean, you know, this commission in the last few years has addressed, we've addressed women's reproductive rights in a resolution. If you remember, when Texas first implemented its abortion law, we did women's rights. That's still a hot topic. Just yesterday, a bill was introduced to restrict abortion to just 6 weeks, nothing after 6 weeks. I don't know if that was to say Happy Women's International Day or not, but you know, that happened at the same time as International Women's Day. We have a bill now that was filed, 6 weeks, that's it. So do we...
Was that filed by a woman?
I don't know. But do we address, so my point is, maybe we just look at a broad resolution that talks about the values that are important to us as a city and what we would like to see the state concentrate on. Personally, I would like to see the state concentrate on property insurance issues. I'd like to see the state concentrate on auto insurance issues. I'd like to see the state concentrate on resiliency and sea level rise and infrastructure and help the cities deal with those issues. I'd like to see the state deal with anything to do with affordable housing, whether it's purchasing or rental. There are so many things that I would like to see the state focus on and not what we're seeing the state focus on with these kinds of bills that are coming in front of the legislature. So again, that's something that I think that maybe we can discuss in terms of something just broader, more general, or else I could see us doing resolutions every single meeting on every single one of these issues. I mean, I don't know how my colleagues feel. I mean, I know how I feel about the AP courses. I know how I feel about the constant maligning of the transgender community and the LGBTQ community. I know how I feel about threatening doctors' licenses if they perform abortions or if they even provide health care to a transgender youth. Right now, doctors are facing the losing of their licenses if they prescribe hormone blockers for transgender youth. Health care is being stripped away from transgender youth and transgender adults, and making it a crime for doctors to provide that kind of health care. Can you imagine if any of us could not go to a doctor and receive health care? These are the kinds of bills that are coming out of our state right now. So again, do we address every single one, or do we just do something general? But I mean, I could go on and on and on and on.
Well, you are going on and on and on.
So I apologize for that. But
If I can just say this,
Yeah.
Mayor, I agree we don't necessarily have to address each and every one, but when those issues come up that are worthy of that attention, we need to address it. We do need to address it. It doesn't need to be compiled into one statement where it may get lost in the comments. You mentioned something about a workshop. There's some other options maybe we can do. Ms. Daphne's come back to the podium for some reason. Maybe we can hear what she has to say. But I don't think we need to, I don't want to water it down and let it end up in a statement of every issue that's going on in the Capitol.
Commissioner Herbst, do you have any thoughts about this approach to expressing ourselves in the legislature?
Thank you, Mayor. So Commissioner Beasley Pittman, Commissioner Glassman bring up a lot of very good points that there are a lot of issues that the state is addressing that touch on a variety of cultural issues and human rights issues. I will just let you know that it's going to be my policy not to vote on any of those across the board. I am going to limit anything that I vote for in a resolution to an item of city business.
All righty. Vice Mayor?
Well, Pam brought up a couple very good points. Number one, well, the big one is, again, defer to the school board education issues and hold off. I think to do a resolution right now would not be wise. I think I'm going to follow Pam's lead on that.
Okay, so Ms. Daphne?
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, just to reiterate, Commissioner Glassman, your point that rather than doing resolutions each and every time there is an issue, a general maybe letter, but that is also why you have the legislative program that was adopted. It does give us enough flexibility to advocate when we go up to Tallahassee during session to state our views and our opinions when they do file those proposed bills. So a general statement, I think, would be advisable, and also, is also why we have our legislative program, is to address those issues of importance to you, and the commission is all-encompassing within that program. And if it is not encompassing, we can always make those additional additions with the topics that may not be addressed, because the program is developed early on before session. And as always, I would defer to the city attorney to opine if there's any legality to that.
I have a question. The suggestion to even issue a request urge the school board for a resolution, is that, I'm so used to saying, worthy of time? Would that be beneficial?
That would be my recommendation. The state often urges the federal government to do certain things when they pass memorials. So I think right now they have a memorial where they are urging the federal government to adopt a constitutional amendment, or just an amendment to pass a balanced budget each year, similar to what Florida does in their constitution. So I would recommend following that policy. We don't like when the state tells us what to do. I would never recommend to tell the school board what to do. But seeing that academia does fall within the purview of the school board, the urging them to take a stance and then following whatever stance that is, if that's what it comes to, would be advisable.
But you see, there was a time when school boards did have an independence, and school boards did set policy, and school boards made those decisions. We are no longer in those times. And that's why I don't understand why it is that we would write to the school board when they need our help. So what exactly are we going to write to the school board? I'm curious. What was that going to look like? Someone help me.
Well, I think what was being suggested was that the expression that we were going to encapsulate in the resolution about our support for continued studies, AP studies in African American history and so forth, we direct to the school board saying we support your efforts in trying to keep those courses included in your curriculum, rather than direct it to the state legislature.
Well, if I'm the school board and I get something like that, I'm going to say, what are you telling me that for? Tell the state. They're the ones who are making the decisions. It makes no sense to me. It just doesn't. Only because, okay, so well, of course that's how they feel. So you're telling them something that we know how they feel. And again, if I was receiving that resolution, I'd say, why are you telling me that?
Well, because we don't know, according to Daphne, we don't know where they, or maybe you could help us, Zoe. We don't know exactly where they are on this yet. And if they need a nudge in some direction as to whether or not they should go ahead and sanitize their curriculum versus not, then perhaps they need to hear from their cities. But maybe, Zoe, you can give us a little bit more understanding as to what the policies are in the school board?
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, Zoe Saunders, Chief Education Officer. The Education Advisory Board has been exploring the impact of the new legislation and proposed legislation. In the last meeting, they identified a number of questions that they would like to explore. So part of what we're doing is working with the School Board of Broward County to educate ourselves on the changes and what those will look like in practice in the classroom and to teaching. So likely in the future, we will have some more concrete understanding of what those local processes are and the immediate impact on students. So at that time, there might be opportunity to come back with a recommendation from the EAB. Part of the question they were exploring is what is the role of the city? And what we came to at the last meeting was first off, really understanding what a lot of these changes look like in practice, and when they're exploring the implementation of those bills, what that process is at both the local and district level in implementing them.
Okay,
So if
thank
it could
you.
be helpful, we could be of support and really becoming more educated on what that looks like and what the role of the school board is in adopting that and getting a little bit more clarity on what that looks like in practice.
Okay, thank you. So, you know, I'm listening to what everyone is saying here, and I have to tell you that I think we all share a sense of outrage when we started to hear some of the policies that were being created in Tallahassee, and the impact it's going to have on us personally and on our constituents. And some of these things don't necessarily fall within the purview of a city commission per se. There are things that do fall within the purview of the city commission. For example, I have outrage that they're trying to take away our zoning rights and our rights to control, you know, environmental impact studies. And I mean, there's things that we actually do have control over that they're trying to wrest from us. To me, that's equally outrageous, and we should probably do a resolution because that's city business. Social issues and academic issues, I just find that, you know, it would be great if we could make a statement, but I understand the hesitance on some people not to make a statement because they don't feel it's within the purview of a city commission per se. It's more of a visceral response that we have individually. So you know, whatever the pleasure of the commission is, I'm prepared to go forward with it. But so far, I've not heard any particular consensus. I think that there's a consensus that we all have. We all have some visceral distaste for what the legislature has done with regard to trying to eliminate AP studies for African American history and other studies related to it. And we can certainly send a message to Tallahassee or to the school board, but apparently the only thing we really agree upon is that we have, you know, we disagree with that policy. Now, where it should go, how it should be articulated, I don't hear a consensus. So,
Well, Mayor, are we able, I mean, this all started, I think, about a month ago when Commissioner Beasley-Pittman brought it up. And I just don't understand where we went off or why we can't bring it back, because I did agree with the commissioner when she brought this up about a month ago. And then our attorney's office drafted something. Can we find out what's good or what's not bad? I mean, that isn't an important issue that's right out there right now. There have been many organizations who've weighed in on this and said how they have felt about the AP African American Studies course. That's been in the press a lot. So I don't know why we can't address that, or even just education in general. And, you know, I know what you're saying, Mayor, when you say that it doesn't maybe affect us directly or it's not in our purview. But, you know, again, as a former teacher for almost 20 years, I want Florida students, I want Fort Lauderdale students to be critical thinkers. I want them to know all about history, the good, the bad, the ugly. I don't want them to get a sanitized version of education. I don't want them to be robots. They need to understand. I mean, I listened the other day to a really interesting report from the students in New College in Sarasota. It was really heartbreaking to listen to these students talk about why they attend that school and what's happening to their place of higher education. I am just fearful that if we don't take care of our students in Fort Lauderdale and in Florida, that we are going to see a degradation of the educational system. We will lose teachers. We will not have the best and brightest applying to our places of higher education if this continues. And that's why I don't want to be silent on any of these issues. I think that it is so important to put this into words and let people know what's important to us as a city, because we do need to cultivate the best and the brightest, and we have to have students who are critical thinkers, and they have to understand the world around them, not just one version of it. And that's why it's so important to me. You know, when I think back, just so you know, because this did start with the AP course in African American Studies, and I think that it's important for us to maybe stay and get back onto that path. You know, there are so many students that should know what's in that course and what's going to be taken out of that course. And basically what's being taken out of that course is any discussion of Black LGBTQ people. That's really the basis of what's coming out of that course, and that's what's bugging the state that much. But you know, our students need to know who Bayard Rustin was, that he was a chief advisor to Martin Luther King, a Black gay man. They need to know that he was considered the brains behind that. People need to know who James Baldwin was, one of our best authors in time, one of our best writers, a Black gay man. They need to know who Lorraine Hansberry was, a lesbian playwright who wrote A Raisin in the Sun and now has a Broadway production of a play that's back again. They need to know who Alvin Ailey was. They need to know who Congresswoman Barbara Jordan was, a woman who just blew me away during the Watergate when I would listen to her speak in Congress, a congresswoman from Texas, a lesbian Black woman. These are the things that seem to be pulled out of the educational system right now. This is the stuff that we have to speak up and say, this is not good. And that is why I feel so strongly about us making a statement to the state. Again, can we send it to the school board? Of course we can. But again, they are not the decision makers. They're not stripping away their ability to educate our children. The state is stripping away their ability to educate our children. That's enough from me. Thank you.
All right, well, I think we share a message, but the question is the direction. And I don't know, I haven't heard the Vice Mayor articulate anything in particular. I mean, where would you fall in this debate? Because we need to have a consensus. If we don't have a consensus, we can't do anything.
This is a tough one. Really tough. I think everybody brought up some very good points. Mr. Mayor, I think you did a very good job stating, you know, how we feel, how we want to support education in our community. And John pointed out the fact that, you know, we're here for a purpose. So we're here to do city business and a lot of these social issues, even though we feel strongly about it. What is the right, you know, what is our purpose here? There's consequences for everything we do. And you have to think, number one, doing a resolution, and the resolution that was proposed, what will come of it? Will anything happen? Is, you know, it will make us feel good, but you know, there are consequences for just going out there. And we can, every time we don't like something, another resolution for this bill, that bill, this bill, and eventually our voice won't be heard. I think the discussion here put in place how we all feel about it, having to do an actual resolution and sending it wherever we send it. Will it change anything, or will it just make us feel better? You know, we have to think about getting money from the state for other projects that we need. Are we going to alienate our community based on this? Is anything positive or negative? And I think we all have a visceral feeling of what we want, but how to act, putting a resolution in there might not accomplish what we think it's going to accomplish. That was my thought.
So the bottom line for you is we should not do anything?
But I don't think a resolution is going to accomplish what we think it is. It's going to make us feel better. It will give and it will make the community feel better. But I think it's not going to serve our purpose. Put a resolution at this point.
But the purpose would be making a statement. It's not about feeling good. It's about doing what's right.
Right.
So when you say it's not going to make a difference,
well, I think
there's a time that we need to amplify our voices and say what we are supportive or not in support of.
Well, see, that's the whole point. We do want to support our community, and maybe supporting our community, like you said, maybe just a resolution to our school board saying that we support them. I know it sounds crazy, but you want to support a community, you support our school board and furthering education opportunities is whatever they, supporting them locally. I mean, they're our voice on education in the community, and we want to show our support for them.
Well,
Commissioner Beasley-Pittman, what originally was, because I need help, and
Go
we
ahead,
can't
go
talk
ahead.
about this when we're not in a meeting, so help me. What was your original intent when you brought this up last month? What did you want us to do, or what was bothering you, or why did you feel it was important when you did bring up the issue? In other words, where did you want it to go? What did you want us to do?
Well, I did want us to make a statement of how we disapprove of what was going on in Tallahassee, the request to, in my words, erase what is considered what is Black history. Making a statement that would urge and denounce what was going on, and then putting it in a entity where it could make a difference. Understanding right now, Tallahassee, they're doing what they're doing. Also, here in Broward County, if we're going to stand as a county, I believe that we should be making a statement to the school board. I didn't say that initially. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to formulate what I'm trying to express. But I believe that if we start with the school board, letting them know how we feel, and it appears that they are in agreement, but they need the support to know, hey, cities in our county are standing with us. If every resolution is going to Tallahassee, has Broward County necessarily been advised, the school board, that, hey, the municipalities are standing with you. This is what they want. So to make it clear what it is we, the city of Fort Lauderdale, desires for the students here in our local municipality.
Well, are you able, I don't know if you read Miramar. I read Miramar's resolution. I thought it was good also. It was a little early on in the process, so a lot's changed since then. But I don't know if you're willing to or want to. I would love for you to be able to look at Miramar, look at the county's resolution that they passed a couple of weeks ago, look at the walk-on that D. Wayne gave us at our last meeting. Is it possible to still do that and also send it to both our school board and the state?
Are you directing that to the commission?
Yes,
I'm sorry, I'm processing.
Oh, no. No, because I want to be respectful.
Yes,
Commissioner
understand. I wasn't
who brought
ignoring
this
you.
up. Right.
Yes, I know you were speaking to me. Processing. Let's look at this. I'll take your suggestion about looking at Miramar's as well and comparing it with what we have here as the walk-on. And I keep going back to the fact that you mentioned a workshop. The workshop would give us an opportunity to talk about this as a commission, correct?
Well, this is kind of a workshop.
It is. I mean, but what I'm saying is if you did look at the counties and our walk-on and Miramar, and maybe we're able to work with the the city attorney's office and come back to us at the next meeting with a document that you felt comfortable with. That would be helpful, because then we won't always just keep talking about it. And we'll take some action one way or the other, and then we're able to move forward. And again, I would still be very willing to see us send something to the school board, but also to the decision makers, in this process.
Miramar basically said that they're asking the legislature and the Department of Education to reverse its decision.
Right.
That's basically how they framed it. And my feeling is that based on the conversations I'm listening to here, we at least have a consensus with regard to the message. The thing that we don't have a consensus on is to whom it would be directed. But at the very least, we know we can direct it to our school board. And that would give them a sense of feeling of support from the largest city in the county of how we want them to guide themselves in making their decisions going forward. Whether we now decide to take it to another level could be a decision that this commission can ultimately make. But I think we have most people who feel that maybe to the school board we can direct the message, because I know the message is consistent. I don't think anyone disagrees on the message. It's just the party to whom we would direct the message being sent. Does that make sense?
And
Yes.
I would like to take the opportunity to sit with city attorney.
Why don't you try to work out some
And we'll work
language,
that out
yeah.
and we'll have a conversation
Be
regarding
strong.
this.
Be
And
s- be
yes,
strong.
Yes, I can. It's stronger than you think.
No, that would be good. Because I agree with you. I don't think that this is a matter of, feeling good. Vice Mayor, I disagree with that thought. I think this is a matter of doing the right thing, of standing up for something if it's an important principle or a value, or it's representative of your city. And there are just, so many issues here that I don't think it's a matter of feeling good. I think it's a matter of, just doing what is necessary.
Okay.
Thank you.
So for
All right, well-
clarity, we are holding this until I can speak with city attorney and we can come up with a language and we'll move from there.
Correct.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything further anyone wants to add to this conversation? None. Okay. Moving on. Oh, thank you. So that pretty much covers the business. So we're now into city commission reports. Commissioner Herbst, do you have any reports you'd like to make?
Thank you, Mayor. So two things that I'd like to bring up. First, I had an opportunity to meet with Shane Strum, and we walked the site up by the Beach Community Center that we're discussing as a potential location for an emergency room at the beach. He was quite blown away by the location and the space that we have. He thinks it would be an incredible partnership between the city and Broward Health. It's an ideal location for it. It replaces, as we all know, the old Cleveland Clinic that we had at the beach. We haven't had a facility out there in quite a number of years. This is an ideal location for it. We have an elderly population to a great extent in the Galt Ocean Mile area. We have a 55 and over community basically located half a block away from that location. And it's also adjacent to Fire Station 54, which hopefully will be up and running again within the next 6 or so months. So I think they're very excited about it. They've got capital dollars available to do it. I think the community would absolutely welcome it. I've asked them to present to the Galt Ocean Mile Association so they could have that discussion with those folks. I think this is a win-win all around. And
So let
Sure.
me ask you, because we met with him also, and I'm just trying to get an idea. So this would be built on the parking lot, so
Right.
we wouldn't interfere with the operation of the actual community center, correct?
Exactly. The community center can stay in place. We have parking in actually 3 separate strips over there.
Right.
And what we're talking about doing is vacating the street between 2 of the sections of parking.
Right.
And this was something that we contemplated when we were looking at trying to figure out a way to accommodate a park at that location. So I think we could do the same thing. We can vacate that street. We can build the emergency room facility. We can incorporate the parking that we have there into the larger structure because I have the shops district in that area that still need parking. So we can't, as I explained to Shane, we can't have a loss of parking in that area.
Right.
So we could accommodate that parking within the structure. We even talked potentially about having physician offices in that same location. He's got a number of ideas about ways that we can provide community wellness to the folks in the area. There's just so many programs that I think Broward Health could offer at that location that would be an amazing benefit to the folks not only in that immediate vicinity, but also all up and down the beach. Everything from Lauderdale by the sea all the way down to the South Beach area. It'd be ideal to have that facility for folks who have stroke, heart attack, maybe trip and falls, where it's imperative that we stabilize them as quickly as possible before we make a determination about the need to transport. I see my doctor down at the other end has some thoughts.
He's salivating.
Yes, I can tell.
There's a puddle of saliva sitting right here.
Anything other than
I can hear it without
yes
even
will be
looking
shocking.
at it.
Oh, you feel it on the back. Okay, it's a great opportunity. I mean, we've just heard an hour and a half getting off the beach. Imagine if the person getting off the beach was trying to go to an emergency room. Give me a break.
Exactly.
You could have people go there when the ER is full. Patients call me and say, "Listen, we got to go to the ER. There's a huge waiting time." No, hey, go to the urgent care. Go in and out. You might not have to come, or if you do go there, they could. Stabilize them, like you said, and eventually when a room opens up, bring them out there. Great level of service you'd be giving to people. And again, when events are on the beach, fire rescue doesn't have to be coming off the beach. I think with spring break, they were the number of calls this last couple of days. I was talking to some of the fire rescue personnel was ridiculous. They were just going around the city, going back and forth, and you have a facility there, fire rescue doesn't have to come off the beach. They could transport there and then go right back and stay on the beach. So I think it's a win-win, 100%.
Okay, so I have a question, Dwayne. Is this going to be an unsolicited proposal? How are we going to go? What's the legal approach to getting this done? I mean, do we have to put it out for an RFP? Is this an unsolicited proposal? I mean, we've been hearing how awful unsolicited proposals are, and now we have an opportunity to benefit from one. How are we going to approach this?
Well, and if I may, before the city attorney weighs in.
Do you know the answer?
We've done this several times before so this is another governmental entity. So
Right.
we have done arrangements with other governmental entities that did not necessitate an RFP or an unsolicited P3. As a government-to-government entity, the process is a little bit different, and I'll let the city attorney continue.
You don't have the answer if you don't know the answer right now, but
I don't have an answer for you right now.
Yeah.
We don't have a proposal, and I am not familiar with the process that Commissioner
we need to
Herbst is
know
mentioning.
that before we go. I don't want someone to try to trip us up and say say another emergency room urgent care company saying we should go there instead. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy with what the commissioners talked about. We've spoken directly with the hospital district as well. I think it's a win-win definitely for the city and for the community, but I just don't, you know how these things happen.
Yeah, so I am familiar with the process with other governmental entities. I just want to familiarize myself with what a hospital district is and considered under the interlocal agreements and so forth.
Okay, please let us know.
And so loosely, what I'm contemplating with this would be an interlocal agreement between the hospital district and the city of Fort Lauderdale.
Again,
as a mechanism.
It sounds good, but I want to make sure it's legal, that's all.
Right.
Okay.
And we'll look into that.
Is there anything else?
Yes, there is, Mayor. So one other thing that I'd like to bring out. So we have an event coming up where Circuit is going to be inaugurating service up in District 3. Congratulations, Ms. Beasley Pittman. I think that's an amazing thing. I've been so impressed by what Circuit has done. So their ridership last year was 7,000. This year was 42,000. So I think it's an incredible opportunity for
And it's a nice
mobility.
ride. It's a nice, easy ride.
You know, I haven't ridden in
on,
it yet,
hop on.
but I did get into one when we had our neighbor support night. So I had the opportunity to sit in it. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to riding it. But in order for me to look forward to riding it, I need to get it up in District 1. So I have had
Does
some
District 1 have some part of the route in District 1?
No, we don't.
Not at all?
No.
Okay.
So I'd like to get it up there. So I've had some conversations with them, and they're trying to set up an arrangement with Lauderdale by the Sea. But I think if we look at doing something in the Galt that could then go down to the Central Beach area, up to Lauderdale by the Sea, up and down Commercial Boulevard to where we can get to Holy Cross and Imperial Point hospitals for some of those residents that may not want to drive, I think it would be ideal. So I just want the commission to be supportive of expanding the coverage for Circuit up to some of these other areas that would, I think, really benefit from it.
We used to have the trolley up there.
We did. We had the Galt trolley,
Yeah.
and so I think this would, be a better option because it's a point-to-point. One of the problems with the trolley is it doesn't always get you where you need to go, and this certainly would. So again, one of the things that we talk about all the time is how do we get cars off the road? And so this is certainly a mechanism for doing that has so far shown itself to be hugely popular. And I think we just continue to expand the footprint. One of the conversations that I've had is about utilizing, and you mentioned it earlier, Mayor, some of that 1% surtax that really needs to go to expanding transportation options. The county is sitting on, I think, close to $1 billion right now.
2.2.
It's growing exponentially. So, it doesn't take much. We just authorized an additional $260,000 to expand the 6-month pilot project for the downtown area. Imagine what we could do with a little bit more of that surtax money and how we could expand these options for, the folks in our community to get out of their cars, not have to drive, and have that point-to-point convenience that Circuit offers. So again, I think this is something that I'd like the commission to really support and, sort of direct the city manager to explore these options.
Great. Commissioner Beasley Pittman.
Yes, thank you. Want to share some of the amazing activities that I was invited to and was able to take part in since our last commission meeting. On February 23rd, the NAACP had its annual event, which is called the Evening with the Black Judges. Awesome event. It occurs every year, and it's an opportunity to, through a forum where basic questions is asked, where it doesn't interfere with what they can and cannot say, but it's a great opportunity for everyone to see who the judges are that are working in the 17th Circuit Courts here in Broward County. Also, on the 25th, it was the Six Trunk Parade and Festival, a wonderful event. I want to thank Commission for coming out and walking and representing as the city of Fort Lauderdale. We miss you, Commissioner Glassman, knowing that you were out of town. And it was a great event, and thank you for coming out to support. I would like to say, taking this opportunity, just a reminder that this is an event which is a signature event for our district, for the city overall, because it highlights the history, the accomplishments, and the culture of the district, but also the city overall. And I'm hoping moving forward, I know we'll be going into budget talks and things of that matter, to consider looking at the budget that is in place for that particular event. We would definitely need to talk about additional funding for what we would like to see to continue to make the event amazing. At one point, that particular event, our event was considered the second most attended event in the United States. So we need to get back to that level, and we need the city to help with the ownership of it because it's very important. So also, moving on, March 1st, I had the pleasure of being at the ribbon cutting for Holy Cross Hospital. They have set up a walk-in facility at the YMCA on Sixth Trunk, and I was able to go and represent the district and the commission. Our mayor sent a proclamation inviting them and thanking them for bringing their services to the Sixth Trunk corridor, specifically at the YMCA. Also, on the 2nd of March, I attended the Broward League of Cities membership meeting. We were in Deerfield this time. Deerfield hosted the event, another wonderful event. In the meeting, there was a conversation, and I want to gather a little bit more for us so we can talk about it overall. But there was a discussion or a report given about the SROs, the schools resource officers, and a discussion about our city municipalities, those officers, or that invoice has not been paid to the cities.
What's the status of that? Have they started paying us yet? Hello?
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that.
I don't think they are.
No.
And this is since August.
And that was the discussion.
No.
It
we
was
have not.
it was brought to an open conversation at that particular meeting, and it's my understanding that there are conversations still in place to receive those fundings, so the municipalities will be able to pay those.
Part of the delay, Commissioner, might be because of the musical chairs of leadership there, with the superintendent being dismissed, and I can understand a little bit about that, but this should have been in place as of August of last year, and the superintendent was definitely in place, and why we don't have a contract, I don't know, but it's disturbing because this is a significant amount of money, and what is the city going to do? Not protect the kids? So
Exactly. And that was the conversation they wanted us to relay back to commissions, that the Broward League of City is addressing it. It's not, they are aware of it, and it's not being ignored. Okay? So I want to share that. Also, inviting commission on the 30th to a membership meeting, which will be held at the Renaissance in Fort Lauderdale West. The cost for that event is $35, and it's a membership meeting. It's an opportunity for networking, getting to know the other municipalities, commissioners, whoever. Also, the Breyer mayor was there previous, but it's an opportunity to network and get to meet some of the other officials in our county. So I'm extending that opportunity as well. And then also sharing for all of us to save the date for June, it's in June, they haven't given us the exact date, but June 2023. It's gonna be the 66th annual gala, and it's gonna be held at Margaritaville Beach in Hollywood. And that's an opportunity as well to celebrate the accomplishments of the Broward League of Cities and also to network.
That's June what?
They didn't give us the date. We
They
just
give
have
you
June
date, okay.
23rd.
It's in June?
Yes, in June, okay? There was one other thing I wanted to bring up. Oh, yes. I should have started with this. Reminding everyone that today is International Women's Day. Today we celebrate the many women and support women. Overall, today is to honor women across the globe who are supporting each other and making things change. So, again, happy International Women's Day to everyone in the room. And also, this is Women's History Month overall. And I'm wearing my purple. Purple is the color for Women's History Month. And it is, it's my intention next meeting to highlight a woman that we can recognize for Women's History Day Month. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Glassman.
Thank you, Mayor. And Commissioner Beasley Pittman, purple and green are for International Women's Day, just so you know.
Green too?
Yes, purple and green are actually, that's why I am actually wearing the green today.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you were just precursoring St. Patrick's Day.
That also, I'm killing many birds with
Is
one
that why
stone.
we have the green pads now?
Yes. It's all connected. It's all
Okay,
good.
okay. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes. So again, happy International Women's Day. Wednesday, the 22nd, there were several of us actually at the 113th. That's hard to believe. The 113th annual chamber meeting luncheon at the Signature Grand. That's quite a production. What do they have? About 1,000 people there. A lot of good information. It's good to see so many positive things being said about our city and county.
When they talk about Broward, they always talk about Fort Lauderdale.
You know what? They lump everything into Fort Lauderdale. It's great. Yes.
It's really something. I mean, it's flattering.
Yeah, even when a lot of the cities that they mention or activities are in other municipalities, they still always seem to refer to everything as Fort Lauderdale. But we'll take it. We'll take it. That evening also was the Middle River Terrace Neighbor Association. And I actually attended also that evening a very interesting program, Dinner at the Square over at Funky Buddha. It was a discussion on housing affordability, a really excellent panel, including our former CRA director from years ago, Kim Breismeister, Walter Duke, Debbie Orshevsky, Mitch Rosenstein. Really exceptional presentation on that situation in our county. The 23rd, I attended the Regional Economic Development Luncheon at the Tower Club. Again, really positive news again coming out of that meeting. That evening was the Idlewild Improvement Association meeting and also the Central Beach Alliance meeting, which I know the mayor was able to cover. Next night was the South Middle River Civic Association meeting. And Monday, March 6th, I attended the ULI and DDA, the Downtown Development Authority, had their annual Fort Lauderdale Focus, all about real estate investment. Again, the numbers are off the chart. All of the indicators are really good for our city. A great turnout over at the Four Seasons on the beach for that conference. And I noted how many young people were involved in that conference. And it's always, just really so encouraging to see the demographics of our city really changing in many ways, and the people that are being active now and the younger folks that are participating. But again, all of the information that was presented that day was very encouraging for our city. Monday evening and yesterday, to those that celebrated the Jewish holiday of Purim. Hope you had a good holiday. Today also, by the way, until 6 o'clock, we have the Clydesdales open to the public at Holiday Park. That's free. Coming up also on March 10th, Solid Waste Working Group. I'll be attending that meeting as well. And then we have an amazing weekend ahead of us. On the 10th, we have the street striping over at Las Olas Oceanside Park. Remember, this year, the St. Patrick's Day festivities are over on the beach. So some of the typical places that we've gathered in the past for the street striping and festivities are a little bit different. But we will have the street striping by the Las Olas Oceanside Park on the 10th. Then obviously on the 11th, we have the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And then for some reason, the Dolphin Isles Neighborhood Party on the same day as the St. Patrick's Day Parade. At least we were able to get them to move that back a few hours, though, so it didn't coincide exactly with the noon kickoff of the parade. Wednesday, March 22nd, Middle River Terrace. Friday, March 24th is the Broward Workshop's 15th Annual State of the County Forum. And then Tuesday, March 28th, our transportation and mobility folks and FDOT will be involved in a virtual meeting and also a in-person meeting to talk about US 1 and the Gateway area in terms of some of the plans that are being floated for that as well. Just a couple of topics that I wanted to address, City Manager. And I know I've said this before, and I'll probably mention it again tonight when we get to some of these agenda items. So many complaints about noise and music at 7 a.m. last weekend prior to the pet walk. I've been told all the reasons why, but we have got to do a better job so that the quality of life for folks in those neighborhoods is just not impossible. I know this was all because of a sound check, but seriously, on a Saturday morning at 7 a.m. to be blasting that kind of music and the bass, it's just not going to work. Also, we did not do a good job with letting people get back to their homes. I was told of stories of folks that had to park across the Intercoastal Bridge on Las Olas near the Idlewild neighborhood and walk back over the bridge east to their condominium apartments because of just traffic not being managed well. For that pet walk also on March 4th. It's getting to the point where people are actually saying to me, maybe we should not approve any more beach events. Maybe just stick with what we've had in the past, let them repeat, but no new beach events, because everyone is just losing their mind over the fact that their quality of life is just so impacted. I mean, if you have to park your car on the west side of the Intercoastal Bridge and walk across the bridge to get home, there's just something really wrong there. The other topic I wanted to talk about is homelessness on the beach. It's interesting, when I went to the ULI DDA forum the other day at the Four Seasons, the businesses were very encouraging in what they were all saying in terms of investment and real estate. Even some of our newer businesses that are located in Fort Lauderdale were there on panels. But yet there was a real undertone of a nervousness about feeling safe walking on our streets, a nervousness about some of the things that they've encountered with regards to the homeless population. It's a tough nut to crack, and I know that, but I'm hearing it more and more and more. The Sunrise Lane area between A1A on Sunrise, between A1A and the Intercoastal Bridge, has experienced a tremendous amount of issues. Also, the area from the bridge itself over to the 7-Eleven. I've been receiving many phone calls from the Sonesta Hotel, many people in that Sunrise Lane area, the businesses there, also the neighbors that live in some of the condominiums in that area. They've told me stories that are just really kind of scary. Just screaming, shouting, completely naked people sitting at the bus stop or hanging out at the 7-Eleven, people just doing things that are just not acceptable behavior in public. Someone that was also hit in the head by someone that was just walking by on a low floor balcony. It's just, too much is happening. Too many people are starting to be a little bit fearful of this issue. And I know it's tough, as I said, but I think that we have to do so much more to clean up these areas and to also deal with some of these issues. I know I've been also asking for the police substation to be activated at the Las Olas Oceanside Park, but we just have to be more conscientious. If our businesses are constantly telling us that, you know, they're fearful of losing business, or customers that are staying at their hotels, or people that are just living in their condominiums in that area are just experiencing these kinds of things, it's just not acceptable. And that's it from me, Mayor.
Mayor, can I just chime on one thing that
Yeah, go
Commissioner
ahead.
Glassman raised?
Go ahead.
I want to echo the comment regarding the events at the beach. This is something I brought up with the city manager during my conversation with him the other day. I think we might want to have this as an item for a future conference discussion, because 3 of our districts are directly impacted by that. We have a lot of residents at the beach. We all understand, of course, that the beach is an economic engine for the entire city. Tourism is one of our primary businesses, but we also have quality of life issues for the folks that live out there. People are feeling like they're trapped in their homes. They can't get into or off the barrier island. And I think we have to, as you suggest, Commissioner, perhaps revisit the number of events that we do and the times of street closings and things of that nature. I know for the marathon, for example, I had people telling me that they were stuck in their car for an hour, you know, trying to get over the bridge. So I think that's an important conversation that I'd like to have.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I was there Sunday morning to speak with a group of kids from Dillard High who were doing a cleanup project. And I was there at 9 o'clock, and there was a triathlon taking place. They blocked off half of A1A, and there was additional traffic, and it was squeezed into narrower lanes. But it wasn't, some of these times that people were telling us it takes them to get from point A to point B, I think are very exaggerated. It took me maybe 15 minutes to get from Las Olas Boulevard to Sunrise. And I just think that when someone says, oh, it took me an hour and a half, I believe it took this lady an hour and a half to go to CVS and get back and spend time there. I can believe that. But I don't want to minimize the importance of the conversation, Commissioner. I do think that we do have to meet and make a decision about limiting the number of events and the type of events on the beach. I'm totally with the commission on that. And I believe we previously did vote, not this particular group, but a couple of years ago, we did vote to limit the activities that were taking place on the beach to some very specific events. I don't know what happened to that list, but there was like 6 or 7, and that was it. And then on a case-by-case basis, the commission would agree to add a triathlon or a marathon or something like that. So we need to stick to that.
Right.
I think we have, but the commission still votes for some of these additional things. But, you know, I applaud, Chief, I want you to hear this. I applaud your group. You had so many people out there on Sunday directing traffic, and everybody it flowed in every direction. And I have to say that, you know, I'm very happy and proud to know that like at every corner there was somebody there directing traffic and moving the traffic along. So it was a great job on Sunday morning. I just want you to be aware of that. So did you want to say something, Vice Mayor?
Even before this weekend, more and more rumblings about that exact same thing, Steve, John. Problems with the number, the scope, the size of events on the beach, quality of life, maneuverability, and that. This has been something that people have little by little rumbling that we need to start scaling back. And this weekend must have been horrendous because it was nonstop. It must have been really, really bad. This is not an atypical story that I've heard over and over again this weekend. So this is something we really should look at. I applaud you for bringing that up.
Okay. So should we cancel St. Patrick's Day? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm not going to be there, so I was going to say
Where are you going? Are you going on a cruise?
I'm going to be in Utah, by the way. So, guys.
Oh, you're going to go skiing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
So
be careful.
Okay. Am I up?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm up. Before I begin, I do want to thank the city clerk for these brand new microphones. Thank you very much. Now we can see who's talking. I have 5 things I want to talk about. Number one, Just want to thank the people working on the tree ordinance. I've gotten some feedback. I've spoken to Dwayne and the city manager about how to move forward. It looks like a lot of suggestions are coming through. I'm going to be meeting with them again this week. I want to thank everybody who's put a lot of time into it. It looks like we're making headway. That's something that's very dear to my heart. Number two is I did give Dwayne, I did give you something if you wanted to mention upon it. Tarpon River had an issue with an agreement they had with a developer from River Lofts about getting a piece of property. You have a copy I gave you earlier today. You had a chance to take a look at it?
I have.
Okay,
an
and
opportunity
your
to
thoughts?
review it.
I did tell them we would bring that up.
So the letter is entitled "A Letter of Agreement Between River Lofts on Fifth LLC, River Lofts Park LLC, and Tarpon River Civic Association." It's an agreement between those private parties in which the developer agreed to certain contingencies or conditions in return for the Tarpon River Civic Association's support of their development application. To my knowledge, the conditions that are set out in this agreement were not made part of the development approval process and were not raised. So it's a private agreement that the private parties would have to enforce amongst themselves.
Does the city have any role to support the neighborhood association in that endeavor?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Number 3 and number 4 are sort of related. I know that this was brought up a while ago. I think now might be a ripe opportunity to revisit this. 4 years ago, we talked about repurposing the county stockade to do something with homelessness, and it seemed to get a lot of support and then hit a wall. Right now, it seems that there's a lot more momentum going forward. I've gone ahead and spoken to my counterparts on the county commission, and they're okay with it. I think, get a feel that the sheriff...
Have you spoken with your counterpart at the county commission?
Several of them I spoke to, not me per se, but like about 4 or 5 county commissioners.
Okay.
I mean, some are very much in favor, and some are like, that were opposed, like, I think there's enough momentum. The medical community is now starting to weigh in. The United Way, the sheriff, I think, would not be opposed. Now might be another time to revisit it. I'd like to go ahead and revisit that on the county level and try to move forward. I know in the past the city has supported that idea.
You know, I applaud your efforts. Your counterpart, the vice mayor, Nan Rich, has always...
No. My meaning my
I know what you're saying.
representative.
You're right.
Not my counterpart.
But but Nan Rich has always been adamantly against it, so we might start from there. I also believe Commissioner Geller has also been against it. I've spoken with our sheriff, who's 100% in favor of it. If that time comes, though, when they will relent, I've even made the offer a couple years ago. I said the city would even buy the property if necessary, take it on, but they seem to think that they need that as overflow in case the county jail becomes the population exceeds the permitted use. And I spoke with the sheriff, I spoke to the previous sheriff. They say never in a million years will they ever need that stockade again. So somehow there's this myth that seems to be perpetrated that the stockade is going to at some point in time be needed to house prisoners. So I think everyone is scared. Everyone in the county level is scared that they're going to violate that court order, which required them to have the stockade. Okay, having said that, stockades a big place. We could take half of it. We could repurpose it. We can redesign it. We could make it more user-friendly and not so offensive to take away the vestiges of prison aspects, which are the barbed wire and the razor wire and all that, and create a respectable and livable living environment that is suitable for housing, transitional housing for homeless. So.
And I think I could galvanize the medical community. Again, another piece behind this. And if I get your blessing, I'd like to go ahead and try to.
Well, we could ask the city manager. He communicates regularly with the county administrator to kind of like raise it again and just get a temperature feel. and
Yeah.
if you don't mind.
Yeah,
and
we were
then
looking at
can,
that.
And then we can go from there. But
Okay.
hey, 100% with you.
Okay.
This
If I
week-
can make it happen, if I get more
All right.
support, I'll see what I could do.
Okay, great, thank
That
you.
being said, this is sort of related, the thought of, I know there's a countywide, but how about we don't have a citywide homeless task force or advisor at this point. Is that something that we had thought of in the past, or?
We have thought of that in the past.
We've had it in the past, actually.
Yeah, we have had it in the past.
Several times.
Something to revisit now, or?
I'm not sure what would they accomplish.
Well, I think our homelessness task force does a really good job now with that program. Maybe city manager could talk about it or what the plans are for the future, but I think they really do a good job.
Who are we talking about?
So the Task Force for the Homeless is a nonprofit that the city hired additional staff from that nonprofit to assist with outreach, in addition to the limited support that the county provides us. So it has been effective, and it has helped transition people into where they need to be.
Plus all of the services that we do provide, whether we're talking about.
We've institutionalized the process. We have now, in the last few years, we've created a department within the city government, which we
Right.
didn't have before, which has outreach officers, which has, we connect with the police department, we have neighborhood support. All of that is interconnected to try to work with the homeless population, take them out of homelessness. I think the homeless issue would be much worse today if we did not have that.
Right.
But what it tells us is that there's still homeless people out there, right? There are homeless people in every district, and it's not only is it a blight to the community, but it's also, it's a terrible statement how a community as rich as Fort Lauderdale still has homeless people. So, if the vice mayor, want to take the initiative and see what efforts we can make and what strides we can accomplish in trying to rehabilitate that site up by a Power Line Road, I'm all for it.
Thank you so much. One last thing, and this is kind of minor. It's time for me to buy new shirts, and I have to know something. We spoke about
Extra large. No, I'm just kidding.
we spoke about.
I agree.
Okay, we spoke about having the vice mayor thing correlate.
You only have one more month as vice mayor. Don't get any that say
No,
vice
no,
mayor.
wait, no, hold
No,
back.
just don't do
No,
that.
we were going to
Don't
move
do
it to
that.
November, and it probably will be, it'll probably be November to correlate. So I was wondering if you'd honor me with finishing out the term, so to speak, till the November. Is that something guys would be willing to do?
What we had talked about?
No, we can't do that, but that's something that the charter revision board is going to be discussing in terms of, that's one of the issues on the list in terms of extending the
Oh, we
term.
can't do it
Well, no, because
ourselves?
right now, we're obligated to do that every April, correct?
Yeah. It's every April because we used to have the March
Right.
elections.
Yeah.
That's a
Right.
charter thing, right?
So the question
Yes.
was,
Yeah.
while we're waiting, you wouldn't, okay.
Well,
I
let
asked.
our esteemed new charter review board come up with a recommendation.
Okay.
They're hard at work, aren't they?
Okay, so I'll just, okay.
They're hard at work.
Okay.
Thank you, that's
Is that it? Okay, great. Thank you. There's a lot going on these last couple of months, and certainly in the next month there's a lot of activity. I just listening to everybody's schedule. It sounds like we've all been very, very busy. FXC has had a lot going on there. The ACE Awards was a great event. Thank you for hosting that. The Sistrunk Parade and Festival was really a great time, so I was very happy to attend that. And attended the Stonewall Library 50th Anniversary Gala at the Westin Fort Lauderdale Beach Resort. We had the Riverwalk celebration at the Boathouse at the Riverside Hotel. We had a few grand openings. The Moxie's restaurant. It's one of the best restaurants I think we have on Las Olas. Great space, great food. That's in the Styles building. We also had Employee Appreciation Day. I thought every single person that worked in the city showed up that day. It was quite popular. So thank you, City Manager, for hosting that and for bringing our staff together. I think everybody did appreciate that, as we appreciate you. Thank you. We had another ribbon cutting. Synovus Bank opened yet another branch in Fort Lauderdale. I think it was either the 7th or the 8th. They had a magician there, which I can't tell you how mind-boggling this guy was. I mean, he gave me a book. He says, pick a word in this book. I open the book, I pick a word, and within 2 minutes after he goes through his hocus pocus thing, he writes down the word. It's the exact word that I picked in the book. Yeah, and then he said, I don't come empty-handed to any ribbon cutting. So he had this balloon in his hand, and then as he lifted the balloon, it popped, and a bottle of champagne appeared. How do you put that up your sleeve? We're going to hire him for future events, Greg. The Museum of Discovery and Science had a very, very successful fundraiser on March 3rd, food and wine experience. There were over 1,500 tickets sold at that event, so very proud of our Science Museum. And Joe Cox, thank you for taking it to the levels that you have now taken it. Runway to the Cure at FXC was held on March 4th. Again, another FXC event. And this past Monday, I spoke at the U.S. Conference of Mayors Climate Summit in Coral Gables. Yes, I had to get up in the middle of the night to get to Coral Gables by 9 o'clock. But met a lot of nice mayors from around the country, and they had a lot of very complimentary things to say about Fort Lauderdale. March 9th, which I think is coming up real soon, I think it's Friday, I'll be speaking to the DDA about downtown issues at the main. Oh, is that tomorrow? No. Oh, it's tomorrow. I'm sorry, yeah. I have the MPO. We have the MPO right after that, right? Dr. Sturman? We have the MPO tomorrow. Yep. Yep.
He's busy. He's canceling his order of his vice mayor shirts right now. I'm sorry. He's good.
Let's see. Also tomorrow at 6 p.m., History FTL Women's Trailblazers of 2023 is going to be held at the Galleria Mall. The Historical Society will be recognizing several women being trailblazers in our community, so very happy to participate in that. Let's see. On Friday, we have the St. Pat's Street Striping at 4 p.m. at A1A and Seabreeze, and then followed on Saturday at the St. Patrick's Day Parade and Festival. The parade starts at noon, and the welcome remarks will be, for some reason, after the parade at 2 p.m., but the commission's invited to the breakfast at Beau's at 10 o'clock, I believe, 10 to 11:30. And then for those attending will then be taken by circuit or some kind of golf cart to the head of the parade. I invite everybody to attend. I hope you're all going to be able to attend. Yeah, you'll be given your sash, and it'd be great if we all could walk together there. Let's see. And Atlantic Aviation grand opening. Has that date been changed? Rufus, it was supposed to be March 16th at FXC, but I think it's been changed.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Yeah, the date has been changed. As a matter of fact, I just got an email that they have the 29th of March or the 30th of March available. So we're working with your assistants to see what dates you're available.
So tell us exactly what that grand opening is opening.
Well, Atlantic Aviation, which is the second busiest fixed base operator in the country, has moved to FXC, and they're expending over $20 million in capital investment. One of the things they've done is torn down some older T hangars, and this first phase that they've completed for the grand opening is a new terminal building. They've added 4 acres of ramp space. They plan on doing a 60,000 gallon fuel farm and an additional 90,000 square footage of hangar space at the airport. So this is the first phase for that terminal building grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony.
Great. Sounds like quite an investment. So
yes, it is.
Okay,
Most
let us
definitely.
know when.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so a couple of issues. The issue of HOA, certain HOAs were looking to establish a an assessment in their communities. A lot of the communities were wanting to find a way to restrict short-term rentals, and they thought they could come up with covenants for their neighborhood that would require a more restrictive use of the dwellings in their particular neighborhood. I asked Mr. Spence to come up with an opinion as to whether or not homeowners associations could be established that could then restrict vacation rentals. And it appears that the general rule is only if you got 100% participation with each homeowner would that be permitted. And for those HOAs that once had a mandatory association and may have let it lapse and wants to reinstate it, you can reinstate it without 100%. 51% approval is necessary in order to reinstate a previously established mandatory HOA. So for those of you who are listening, keep in mind that if you want to establish a mandatory HOA, it has to be 100% participation. And under those conditions, you might then be able to restrict vacation rentals. Just want to put it out there so that people know exactly what the status of that is. We're still suffering the experience of bike gangs coming to our city. I'm being sent, I know Commissioner Glassman's being sent videos, people still doing gyrations in the middle of the street, especially at busy intersections. It's dangerous for pedestrians, it's dangerous for other people on the roads, and it's dangerous for the people doing these dance tricks with their wheelies and their jacked up cars. It's just not a good thing for the city of Fort Lauderdale. I don't know how we're going to prevent that. It's still happening, and I know the police are hesitant to engage in chases to try to track these perpetrators, but we just have to have more police presence, I think, on the beach. So when we have our next budget session, I guess we're going to have to really think about increasing our sworn officer population so that we will be able to station more visible police officers in these hotspot areas. And Mr. Spence, do we have any further news on our panhandling ordinance and how it's being addressed by the federal court? Have we heard back in any way?
I don't have any additional news for you at this time, but I will.
Could you get back to us on that?
I will.
Okay. Okay, that's it for me. Anything further from anybody else? There being nothing? This
Mayor,
meeting's
I have
concluded.
some
Yes.
reports.
Whoa. No, we're going to do the CRA.
And I also have.
We're
All right,
back open again.
Sorry. So real quick, just wanted to mention.
I don't mean to silence you, Grant. But.
To Commissioner Beasley Pittman point, the 66th annual gala is on June 17th, so you can mark your calendars. June 17th. The school board will provide an update on the SRO contract to all participating cities tomorrow. That's what we just received an update on. And we're going to look at the expansion for D1 and what can be done for Circuit. We've already had an initial discussion with Greg Stewart.
Okay.
We hear you loud and clear on homeless support at the beach. Just want to let you know that a new detail officer was hired for that area. We're also looking at expanding or doing more outreach within the area. Neighbor Support will be taking care of that. And we're looking at submitting for federal funding so that we can create an impactful homelessness program that can provide mental health support, outreach, and shelter support as well. Want to let you know that our police chief is working along with other chiefs and agencies to address the donuts and violations that you have heard and seen. It is something that is happening across South Florida, and they are working on it. I advise the chief to look at working with his partners and determining if a campaign would help. So he will be working with other agencies on that. About the events at the beach, we're bringing a presentation, a workshop presentation in April so that you all can see the frequency of events, the impacts that has happened, what we charge, and what our charge is compared to other cities so that you could look at developing better policies that can address some of the quality of life issues that you all have received from the neighbors. Wanted to let you know that the federal appropriation cycle has begun. Earmark requests are due internally to me by March 15th. The general appropriation requests are due internally on March 27th. So if there's a project you would like for us to consider, we certainly can assist. And if you have any questions about appropriations, Ms. Daphne Saintville can assist. We attended a workshop on Monday with Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It was very insightful to see all the opportunities that exist, and we will be submitting certain earmark requests. Then on March 22nd, I've been invited to speak at the Digital Workplace Summit and share success stories about employee engagement and what we've done to boost engagement and improve the employee experience. I will be out of the office from March 11th through March 16th, attending Alliance Leadership Trip meeting in San Diego, so I will not be at the parade. I'll be attending to learn more about housing and homelessness and how best practices have been implemented in that area. ACM Fajardo will be acting. On March 20 to 22nd, I will be taking some days off. And again, ACM Fajardo will be acting city manager. And I will be out on March 25th through March 28th attending the NLC Congressional City Conference in Washington, D.C. Towards the end of the month, we're looking at launching our first ever FTL Connect magazine. So thank you all for submitting your expressions. And those conclude my my city manager reports.
And Mayor, I have one item that I want to seek direction from the commission on. It's with regards to development of 500 Hendricks LLC, a 7-unit development that was approved with a yard modification at the Planning and Zoning Board, subject to a city commission call-up. The city commission called that item up. However, that was after the time period stated in Florida statute for final action. They submitted 2 forms of challenges in the court with regards to that. One is a writ of certiorari, which was granted, and that the city is now appealing at the 4th District Court of Appeals. The second was a writ of mandamus, which is to compel the city to issue the development order pursuant to the Planning and Zoning Board approval. Judge Bowman of the 17th Circuit has issued that writ of mandamus compelling the city to issue that development approval. If the city does not appeal that, it renders the pending appeal for writ of certiorari a moot item. So I'm just bringing that to your attention to let you know and seeking your direction with regards to whether or not an appeal would be warranted for the writ of mandamus.
So, in everyday layman's terms, a writ of mandamus is when a party goes before the court and seeks the court's assistance in requiring an institution like ours to force our hand to doing something that they're supposed to do. In this particular case, the judge ruled in favor of the developer and said, okay, city, you need to go ahead and do what you're supposed to do, and that is issue the development order.
That's correct.
Okay, and this commission has previously voted to appeal any effort on the part of the developer because the community did not want the side yard modification to be approved. So this commission is now being asked by you whether or not we want to appeal that decision by Judge Bowman, who said who's now told the city you need to just go ahead and issue that development order. So now I have to ask the commission, what is the pleasure of the commission? Do we want to continue the appeal in favor of supporting the neighborhood, or do we want to let it go and allow the developer to go ahead and build the building that he presented before the city? Anyone have any thoughts on that? Mr. Vice Mayor, what are your thoughts?
I'll let Sue start.
Actually, Steve, it's in your district. I'm sorry, I forgot
No,
it
no
was.
problem. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Well, I think that it's important that we continue along the path that we initiated. We did decide to move forward with the appeal of the certiorari decision, correct?
That's correct.
And if we don't go forward with an appeal of the writ of mandamus, then that would basically just cancel out what we already wanted to do with the writ of certiorari, correct?
That's correct.
It would be a moot point, and it would be over. So I would just ask this, I would, just request from the commission that we stay consistent, and we appeal the writ of mandamus, just like we appealed the writ of certiorari, just to be consistent and to just let this, both of these play out.
Okay, Mr. Vice Mayor?
I'll agree with that.
Okay, Commissioner Herbst?
While I'm very sympathetic to the neighborhood, and I think that this particular project is not in keeping with the style of construction that we have over there, I don't think we have a likelihood of success in this, and so I wouldn't support further appeal.
You would what? I didn't hear that.
I don't support further appeal because I don't think we have a likelihood of success.
Okay, Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
I'm in support of the appeal.
You are in support?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a consensus to go forward with the appeal.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further business of the city attorney's office?
No further business.
Any further business of the city manager's office? Any further business of this commission? Okay, this conference meeting is now concluded, and we will now enter into the CRA meeting. Oh, you want to take a 5-minute break? Okay. This is the 7th inning stretch, okay? Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the CRA Board meeting for this March 8th, 2023. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Herbst? Commissioner Glassman?
Here.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Here.
Vice Chair Sturman?
Start here.
Chair Trentalis.
Here. M1, motion approving minutes for the January 10th, 2023 Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis.
Yes, and those minutes are now approved. M2, motion approving a services agreement between the City of Fort Lauderdale and the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency. Does anyone have any questions with regard to this item?
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
In my pre-agenda meeting on yesterday, in regards to the exhibit that's attached, they were asking about the codes that are on the form, and if we can get a little bit more clarity as to what these items are.
The codes on the form?
Yes, on the estimated service charges, there's codes to the left, and then this is generalized indirect administrative services, overhead fleet. They were asking me if I could tell them exactly what these are.
These codes?
These codes here, and then if we can get a better explanation as to what the listed
What the
items
line
are.
items mean.
Sure. So I'm going to ask Linda or Clarence to assist with that.
Good afternoon, members of the CRA board. So these codes are the charge accounts or the expense accounts that are related to the activity. And these are developed by the state Uniform Chart of Accounts.
Well, so for example, code 4328, service charge, community development, $1,389,000. What does that mean?
Okay, I have Laura Reese in the budget office here.
I picked that because it's the biggest number.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Laura Reese, Office of Management and Budget. So, in the city, we have internal service funds and overhead costs, and we pay for those items in the general fund and in the internal service funds, but then we charge them out to all funds. So, for example, for our fleet fund, that's an internal service fund, where all of the costs of maintaining fleet is paid for. But then if the CRA has a vehicle, they need to pay a part of that cost in order to maintain their fleet, in order to pay for the overhead associated with that function. So this is just a way of us having funds to pay for costs and then distributing them to all of those who use those services. So for service charge community development, that actually would be their staffing. So the CRA doesn't have any of their own staff members. We pay for all of the staff members in the general fund. And so what happens is the people are associated with only doing work in the CRA, but since the CRA has term limits, they don't have their own payroll and all of that. They get paid for through the city funds and not the CRA. And so each month, based upon the payroll that is posted, CRA staff will allocate those charges back to the CRA. So you'll see a charge in the general fund where the folks are funded, and then it's then back charged to the CRA because they're dedicated to working in the CRA. So each one has a different function, and I can give you a written outline if that helps too.
Yes,
Okay.
when it was asked, I was like, okay, I can't go into detail.
I know, right?
Well, that's one
What is that?
explanation.
I'm like, okay, let me ask the question.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Okay.
this explanation, and if you could share with me, and then I can get back with my constituents and let them know.
Sure, I'll just do a table like this and explain for each, if that
All right,
works.
thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Anything further? We're
That's
good?
it for me.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve M2?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis.
Yes, and M2 is now approved. Is there any further business of this Community Redevelopment Agency Board? Nothing? Okay. Any further comments? Nothing? Meeting's concluded. We'll resume at 6 p.m. for our regular meeting.
OPEB.
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 Really?
Really?
So close, Mayor, you were so close.
Get this guy an agenda, will you, city manager?
We now open the other post-employment benefits board meeting on March 8th, 2023. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Herbst?
Present.
Commissioner Glassman?
Here.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Here.
Vice Chair Sturman?
Here.
Chair Trentalis.
Here. BR1, Other Post-Employment Benefits Trust Quarterly Investment Report for the period ending December 31, 2022. Does anyone have any questions with regard to that item? There being none, there's no vote on that. It's just a report. We move on to motions. M1, motion approving minutes for December 20th, 2022, Other Post-Employment Benefits Trust Board meeting. Anyone have any questions with regard to those minutes?
Moved.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second? Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis.
Yes, and M1 is approved. M2, motion adopting the fiscal year 2023 Other Post-Employment Benefits Trust Fund budget. Anyone have any questions with regard to that? There being none, someone like to move the item?
Moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis.
Yes, and that item is now approved. Any other business of the Other Post-Employment Benefits Board? There being none, this meeting is concluded. Are we good?